Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is a story about what if Naruto Triwizard Tournament in Harry Potter. Before I start, please support for more amazing content and do consider subscribing to my channel and share this video with your friends. This is written by KITTYPHOENIX12XX and link in description and support writer. Let's start the video. The letter that starts it all. Dear Hokage of the village hidden in the leaves. My name is Albus Percival Wulfric Brian Dumbledore of Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry. I stumbled across Konoha School of Combat Magic whilst finding a fourth school to compete in the Triwizard Tournament, or as it will now be, the Quadwizard Tournament. I would be honored if you could send competitors, preferably over the age of 17, but if not, over 14 will do. They would be required to arrive on the 1st of September, British time. The tournament will last for the entirety of the school year, so if you wish to continue with your student schooling, they can join the students of Hogwarts in their classes. Sleeping arrangements will be taken care of and any food requests, I'm sure the house elves will be delighted to handle it. However, there is a problem with the sound barrier between the schools, but I'm sure you can take care of it. I would also love if you could do a performance when you enter the hall, when I introduce your school. Also, there is a threat with the Dark Lord, also known as Voldemort, could be coming back, so I realize that this might threaten you and your students. Please send a reply in no later than a week. Even if it is just a decline. From Albus Dumbledore, Headmaster of Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry. Dear Albus Percival Wulfric Brian Dumbledore. I would be delighted to send my students to partake in your competition. However, I cannot send more than one right now since our studies are different to yours. I would prefer to send my best student and the rest of us will come on the day that the names are revealed. This boy's name is Uzumaki Naruto, or in your language Naruto Uzumaki, and he is our best student. I shall send him to the Hogwarts Express on the 1st of September. Our magic, however, is different to yours, as the school name suggests. We are a school of combat magic, which means we do not use wands to fight. Therefore, it might do Naruto some good, taking academic classes. The word of advice, Naruto is emotionally unstable and will most likely try to kill anyone who insult him, but most of the time he'll just glare evilly at them and then proceed to humiliate in public. Naruto also takes pleasure in other people's pain, so basically, he's insane. Have fun. Tsunade Sanin, 1. The 5th Hokage and headmistress of Konoha School of Combat Magic. Tsunade looked immensely pleased with herself whilst she folded the letter and tied it to the owl. Not only had she tricked a wizard into thinking that Konoha was a school, she was sending Naruto into someone else's care for a while, just to see how he fared in a new land. He'd probably be fine. The wizards. Not so much. She reached under the desk for some more sake, downing it whilst opening the window for the owl. She dropped the bottle on her desk, where it rolled and clanked next to the 7 empty bottles. Tsunade was drunk. Extremely drunk. Shizune. Tsunade bellowed. The door flew open and Shizune ran in looking panicked. Lady Tsunade, what's the problem, she said, wringing her wrists together. Bring me Naruto. Tsunade ordered. Shizune's eyes widened. Was the boy going on another mission? He had only got back and had lost a bit more of his sanity in the process. But she complied. Albus Percival Wulfric Brian Dumbledore had been told many things in his lifetime, but never had he ever been told that an emotionally unstable and insane boy would be coming to Hogwarts. He was fearing the worst already. Not only was this boy participating in all the classes, but competing in the tournament as well. He was going to have to warn the other professors as well. Let's hope Voldemort doesn't try to kill Harry again, he murmured. The man dressed in orange ran through the trees, chasing his target. He smiled, thoughts in the gutters. Or should he say, thoughts in the sewers. He was arguing with a massive orange fox about the best way to torture a child. Iubi said that they could tie them to a chair and rip up their stuffed animal collection in front of their eyes, or just tickle them. Naruto thought that they should kill everyone close to them one by one. The rustling in the trees startled Naruto out of his argument. Shizune came up behind him, panting slightly. Then Naruto, PP please stop running. She wheezed. Naruto grinned and started to speed up. He felt Shizune's glare on his back and laughed. He stopped to let her catch up. I really hate you, you know, she muttered under her breath. I know. The blonde laughed. Tsunade would like to see you. She huffed. Hey, bye-bye. Naruto waved before preforming the necessary hand signs and disappearing. Shizune scowled, crossing her arms and glaring at the spot Naruto once stood. Seriously, that boy. She pouted. Tsunade was happily downing another bottle of sake, however, her peaceful aura was changed when. Aba-chan. I've heard you've got a mission for me. Naruto. Shut the fuck up. She bellowed back, throwing her sake bottle just as the door swung open. Oh we. Ba-chan. The boy whined. It didn't hurt that much, plus, I thought you liked pain and blood. She said. Not when it's inflicted on me, he wailed. Tsunade smiled at his childlike antics and proceeded in pulling out a letter written on what seemed like thick, heavy-looking paper. Parchment. She said when she saw the confused look sent her way. The boy nodded uncertainly, staring at the parchment with distrustful but curious eyes. Will it explode? He asked. Nope, already read it, Tsunade said, reaching for another bottle. Right, so what's it say? It's not really a mission, but a request, but… She held out her hand, silencing Naruto before he could complain. It's a very interesting one. A man named Albus Percival Wulfric Brain Dumbledore, yes, I do know his name is strange, has requested that our magical school join 3 others in a magical tournament. He requested that I send students to participate. However, since we not actually a magic school, we could only send one right now, since our studies are different. Abachan magic isn't real. Naruto exclaimed, flailing his arms to prove his point. Anyway. Tsunade proclaimed loudly, I decided to send my top student, aka. You. Me? He stared at her wide-eyed, I thought you were going to send team or something. Sasuke is untrustworthy. Tsunade said, lacing her fingers together. Everyone in the village think I'm insane. Naruto pointed out. Tsunade blushed, well you see when I replied I was drunk ahahaha, then coughed, trying to ignore the temperature drop in the room. Abba-chan, Naruto said, clenching his fists together, I'll do this request mission thingy, but only if you buy me 25 bowls of ramen. What? You owe me? I do not. You're sending me on a mission request thingy whilst drunk. Just go pack. For how long? A year. Why I'd. Stupid Ba-chan, making me pack for a year, for a non-existent place whilst drunk. This is what Sakura and Sasuke could hear from Naruto's apartment. They glanced at each other and shrugged. Naruto? Sakura chirped whilst banging on the door. The door swung open just as Sakura knocked again, thus sending Naruto flying. Sakura-chan, he cried, rubbing the growing bump on his head. H.N. Dope. Team. Naruto, what were you muttering darkly about? Sakura asked. Ba-chan sending me on a mission, for a year. Are we not coming? Nah. Wait. Maybe. Seriously? Asked Ba-chan. Ah, Sasuke, where are you going? The seat Tsunade-sama, obviously. Oh. That's nice, get out. After his 2 teammates had left, Naruto sat down on his bed and pulled out a book. This book had a bluish cover and a title that said, Oxford's English Dictionary. Naruto knew there was going to be some sort of magic spell that could translate, but it wouldn't hurt to learn how to swear and question people without a translator. He was leaving early the next day, spending a week in this place named London and boarding a train and going to Hogwarts. A man named Hagrid was going to be showing him around London, helping him buy school supplies. 1. Naruto also had to plan his entrance. He decided with lots of explosions and a big sign. He grinned, this school year was going to be fun. For him at least. In the staff room at Hogwarts, a stunned silence had settled. The first to break it was a huge man with a long beard, though not as long as Dumbledore's. You expect me to show this kid around? Yes. But Albus, this child could harm the other students. Minerva, his Hokage was drunk when she sent me the letter. How? I read that letter, there was nothing signifying she was drunk, McGonagall exclaimed. Ah. There was a stench of alcohol on the letter. But Albus, what happens if what she said was true? We'll just have to keep him under control until the rest of his school come. What happens if the rest are insane as well? Sasuke stormed into the Hokage's office. Tsunade was fast asleep on her desk, another bottle in her hands. Sasuke slammed his hands down on the desk, resulting in Tsunade waking up, picking up said desk and throwing it at the Uchiha. Sasuke successfully dodged it, Sakura not so much. But, at least she caught it. Sakura placed the desk in front of the Hokage. Tsunade-sama, your paperwork is everywhere. She murmured. Tsunade huffed, I'll pick it up later, what do you guys want? She said, turning back to the fuming Uchiha, who was glaring at her. She ignored him. Well, we just visited Naruto, who told us he was going on a year-long mission, without us. Sakura cried loudly. The rest of us will be going later, it's just that I was kinda drunk and well I had to send my best to compete in a magical tournament. I'm much more powerful than that dope. Sasuke muttered. Well, Uchiha, you're untrustworthy, I mean you left the village for power. Tsunade pointed out. He's insane. Aren't we all? Sakura whispered unconsciously. That we are, Sakura. Kakashi said. He had been outside the window reading and eavesdropped when Sasuke had a table thrown at him. He was now standing behind the Hokage, book in hand. But Naruto is more insane than others, including Guy and Lee. Everyone in the room shuddered at the thought of the 2 green spandex wearing ninja. Anyway. The school is a school of magic, and the third Hokage, to keep the village safe from outsiders, formed the lie that Konoha was also a magic school. However, he made it out that she gestured to the village outside the window, are a magic combat school. The three others nodded. Good. Now get out. The three of them stood outside the Hokage tower. I overheard Tsunade and Jiraiya before you guys stormed in, they were talking about this tournament, Kakashi said. What did they say? Apparently, this tournament hasn't been held in over a century. The tournament was cancelled due to the high death toll. How many died? The last time it was held, all three champions were injured. Injured? If the Chunin exams were cancelled because of injuries, it would never have happened, yelled Sakura in shock. These wizards are bloody pacifists, aren't they? Sasuke muttered darkly. Wait until they meet Naruto. Sakura laughed, man, I wish I was going with him. Did I just hear you right? These wizards are fucking pacifists. A voice shouted behind them. They spun around to find Naruto, eyes wide after hearing the shocking information. Yes, you heard correctly. Kakashi stated. Naruto's eyes instantly brightened. Fucking with them will be twice as fun then. He said cheerfully, now come on, Bachan's treating me to ramen. They arrived at Ichiraku's, where Tsunade was waiting. She looked at them all, I'm not paying for all of you. At least you're paying for me, Bachan. Naruto nudged her playfully. Only a few bowls though. She huffed. The next day, Naruto stood in front of the Hokage, excitement evident in his eyes. Tsunade wasn't worried about him physically, it was more his mental stability. Naruto's mind was racing. He was going to a wizard school. He couldn't help but wonder what wizards were like. Okay Gaki, this can is supposed to transport you to London where this Hagrid guy is meeting you, Tsunade said, passing Naruto a can. Bachan, how can a gun transport me? Naruto questioned. No, magic probably, and Gaki put this on. Tsunade gave him a necklace, it's a translator. Okay, Bachan. Tsunade smiled at the boy. 3. She said. Wait. She's counting. 2. Bachan. 1. Naruto felt a tug at his seal, and then the office vanished. A few moments later, Naruto landed on a table with a thud. Ow. He sat up and looked around. He seemed to have landed in a pub. The pub was rickety and looked as though it could collapse at any moment. The people in the pub looked as though they too would also drop dead. There were a bunch of giggling old ladies smoking in the corner, and the bartender was even older than the old hag, by the looks of things. But the odd thing was, they were all staring at him, fear in their eyes. What you looking at? He said very loudly. Everyone gaped and then quickly turned away. He could hear them whispering. Who's he? He seems rather young to be on his own. Tom? Not a clue. Any ideas, Hagrid? Naruto perked up at the mention of Hagrid. He walked slowly over to the conversing pair, treading silently. Are you Hagrid-san? He said loudly. The two men turned to face him. One was a tiny wee thing. The other was a huge man. Naruto thought he'd be taller than Kisame, if that was possible. Would be me. The tall one said, standing. My name is Naruto, the blonde said simply. Your thaw one, Professor Dumbledore said. I had ta show round. That'd be me, sir. Hagrid beckoned him to follow, leaving the other man confused. They walked past the bartender, who was still cleaning the same bottle. The giggling ladies in the corner had all dropped their cigarettes on the floor and were staring at the blonde. From what they could make out, he was about 15 and had blonde, spiky hair with dyed red tips. Naruto had dyed them red, so if he got blood in his hair, it just merges with the dye. Naruto was too lazy to shower after every mission. He was wearing a bright orange shirt and black trousers too. Hagrid led Naruto out into the back, where they were met with a brick wall. I'm confused. Hagrid chuckled, digging into his jacket and pulling out a pink umbrella. He then proceeded to tap random bricks on the wall. Naruto was staring at Hagrid like he was crazy, which was saying a lot considering who he was. The walls shook violently before opening, revealing a bustling street. 3. They proceeded down the streets, Naruto twisting his head around, taking everything in. First stop, the bookshop. Naruto groaned. Why books? The walk to Flourish and Blots was exciting. They passed a owlery, robe shop and an ice cream parlor. Naruto's head was overflowing with possibilities. He saw a few things that he could use to scare people, and most were normal everyday things. Naruto was staring at a shop that seemed to sell brooms. He glanced away. Something in the corner of his eye caught his attention. It was a sign that read, Nocturne Alley. Interesting. He turned away from Hagrid and walked towards the sign. I wouldn't go down there if I were you, a voice called. Naruto stiffened. He had caught a quick glance of Nocturne Alley, and to be honest, it looked fun. There was a whole shop dedicated to poisons. Another was dedicated to bombs, his favorite. He sighed and turned to face the spoil sport. He was annoyed to see that there were 3 people, 2 boys and a girl. The first boy, the one who had stopped him, had messy, black hair and green eyes. He wore glasses and had a thinly shaped lightning scar. The second boy was tall and lanky with red hair that looked a lot like Gar's. He wore scruffy clothing that looked second-hand. The third was a girl with bushy hair and slightly large front teeth. She seemed the serious type, a bit like Sakura. Naruto looked at them, analyzing them skeptically. He narrowed his eyes at the one in the middle and replied finally. "But you're not me, so why does it matter?" He spat. The three of them took a step back in shock, they had not expected the blonde to act so violent. He glared at them, eyes never leaving them for a second. Barry started to fidget, the boy hadn't taken his eyes off them for what seemed like forever. He glanced sideways to find that Ron and Hermione were also in the same situation. The blonde then broke the eye contact and glanced longingly back at Nocturne Alley. The boy walked slowly past them, eyes full of a desire. Though, Harry didn't know what this desire was. "Do you know where the bookshop is?" The trio were shocked. The boy had yelled, glared and walked away from them, but now he was asking for help. They looked uncertainly at each other. Ron wildly shook his head at the same time as Hermione nodded. Barry shrugged, "Okay, sure." The other boy's face lighted up and he looked immensely happy. "Thanks." He grinned. Harry was somewhat surprised. The boy hadn't recognized him. That was a first. With their new companion, the trio made their way to the shop. The blonde boy introduced himself as Uzumaki Naruto, which had confused them until Hermione, because she's so smart, realized he was Japanese and his name wasn't actual Uzumaki. They arrived at Flourish and Blots and were surprised to find a furious Hagrid waiting inside. They glanced at Naruto and saw that he was grinning sheepishly. "Sorry, Hagrid-san." Hagrid's eyes warmed a bit and proceeded in handing Naruto piles of books, from first year to fourth year. Hagrid even gave him a book on dragons and whispered that it would help him a lot this year. Whatever that meant. Hagrid then wandered off, reading a book on Asian creatures. Harry and Ron walked up to Naruto, who was now engrossed in a book named 500 Ways to Get Away with a Magical Crime, a joke book obviously. 1. Naruto? Harry questioned, "Why were you here with Hagrid?" Ron nodded, signifying that he wanted to know as well. Naruto looked up. He set the book down and grinned furiously. "Well, you see, since I'm from Japan, old man Dumbledore didn't want me getting lost in London, saying it would cause a ruckus or something like that. Anyway, he assigned Hagrid-san to me so I don't kill anyone." Barry blinked. "Kill someone? Naruto wouldn't do that, would he?" Bright Ron murmured, "Why are you here, Naruto?" "That's for me to know and you to find out." He grinned. He then turned and walked out of the shop, holding his large pile of books. Guys," Hermione said, coming up to them. "What?" Ron said, already reading the book Naruto was reading. Naruto didn't pay. Naruto was laughing. No one had realized he hadn't paid for his books. He skipped down the street, arms full of books towards the pub known as the Leaky Cauldron. Why it was named this, he had no idea. In fact, it sounded like what a witch would say if she was on her period. Like, "Oh, my cauldron leaked." Maybe the original owners had it as an inside joke. He chuckled to himself, drawing strange looks from the shopping locals, or not. Hagrid had told him that the pub owner, Tom, had a room prepared for him and all he had to do was state his name and then he was all set. Arriving in the Leaky Cauldron, Naruto was surprised to find that the place was empty, except for a lone man in a cloak. Naruto could sense that this man was watching him but chose to ignore him, opting instead to go to his room. "Yo," he said, walking up to the counter. The man there looked at him wearily. "My name is Naruto Uzumaki." The blonde supplied helpfully. "Oh, you're the kid that Hagrid bought a room for, eh?" the old man stated cheerfully. "Why, yes I am." Naruto replied, as equally happy. "Follow me then." Tom smiled at the blonde and led him to his room. Naruto was awed. This room, rented for 2 weeks, if I might add, it was far bigger than his room and kitchen combined. He ran his fingers over the 4-poster bed, feeling the fabric beneath. It was silk. Is silk flammable? Why do you want to know that? So, I can set the room on fire before I leave. Obviously. Right, obviously. Naruto dumped his books on the bed and waved Tom out. He wandered over to the window, which looked out onto Diagon Alley. Naruto's piercing gaze raked over the crowds before stopping on 3 particular people. Potter, Harry, Weasley, Ron and Granger, Hermione. They were quite rude to be honest, talking about me behind my back, stopping me from going into that exciting alley and not fucking introducing themselves. Kid, calm down. Prank mode on, planning new prank right away. Can I help? Course you can, Caillou. Naruto giggled, enjoying the laughter of the demon in the back of his mind. They were quite similar at times, something that scared the council. Alrighty then, standard book of spells. Grade 1. Over the past week, Naruto had read all his books, bought more, read most of those ones, and had tried all the flavors of ice cream in Florian Fortescue's ice cream parlor. He even got himself a pet, and you guessed it, it was a fox. A fire-breathing, three-tailed fox. According to the owner, after he'd gotten over the shock of seeing a boy asking to buy one of the most arrogant and stubborn creatures in his shop, the fox, about the size of a golden retriever, was only in his initial stages of growth, and by the end, it'll have 9 tails. Coincidence? I think not. Naruto had named the fox Hanu. 1. Even though Hagrid had booked the room for 2 weeks, Naruto was leaving the next day. The map lying on the floor had a train station circled. Whatever that was. Naruto sighed. He was procrastinating and he knew it. It was just that he wasn't prepared to fully meet wizards, in fact the only magic he had seen was the brick wall. He opened a storage scroll and started piling all the books into it. One of his newer books fell onto the floor, opening onto a page containing information on the Japanese tailed beasts. Naruto shuddered, picking up the book to put it back. His eyes fell on the 9-tailed fox. 15 years ago, give or take a few months, the 9-tailed fox, also known as Kyuubi, disappeared. Many people think he could have died, but most believe that he was sealed. Like the other tailed beasts, Kyuubi's tails hold an immense amount of power, therefore, meaning that his container, Jinchuriki, will also hold his power. This makes the Biju containers powerful and dangerous. Shit. Harry was confused. Charlie Weasley was being confusing. Everyone seemed to be hiding something from them, even that Naruto kid knew what was happening. Dear Harry was sitting in the train apartment, thinking about the new rules, and what did Bagman want to say at the tournament. Father actually considered sending me to Durmstrang rather than Hogwarts, you know. Draco Malfoy's snarky voice drifted through the carriage door, he knows the headmaster, you see. Well, you know his opinion on Dumbledore, the man's such a mudblood lover and Durmstrang doesn't admit that sort of riff-raff. But mother didn't like the idea of me going to a school so far away. Father says Durmstrang takes a far more sensible line than Hogwarts about the dark arts. Durmstrang students actually learn them, not just the defense rubbish we do. His voice was cut off as Hermione slammed the door and sat down fuming. So, he thinks Durmstrang would have suited him, does he? She said angrily. I wish he had gone, then we wouldn't have to put up with him. Suddenly the apartment door slid revealing Naruto. Thank Kami. He sighed, I thought I'd never find you. Those stations were confusing. A few minutes earlier. Naruto was very confused. There were thousands of people in this train station, but none of them seemed to know where platform 9 3/4 was. He had even stopped to ask a guard, who gave him a tired look. Apparently, they got asked that question a lot. Naruto sat on his trunk with a defeated sigh. Hanu looked at him with sorrowful eyes, willing him to go on. Suddenly, a very odd-looking family appeared, wheeling their trunks and carrying owls. The wizard family. Naruto watched, stunned, as they proceeded in running through the brick wall separating platform 9 from platform 10. He smirked, Jinjutsu. Though, he didn't know wizards could do that. But it was something he could question after he got on the train. He sat down in the corner without asking to and stared out of the window. After a few surprised seconds, they continued with their conversation. So, Durmstrang's another wizarding school? Harry asked. Yes, Hermione replied curtly, it's got a horrible reputation. According to an appraisal of magical education in Europe, it puts a lot of emphasis on the dark arts. Naruto said. The other 3 looked at him in shock, they had forgotten he was there, plus, he didn't seem smart, so they weren't expecting him to know that. What? He said looking at them, you didn't expect me to know that? He asked. They smiled sheepishly and he laughed. Also, there's traditionally been a lot of rivalry between all the magic schools. Durmstrang and Beauxbatons like to conceal their whereabouts so nobody can steal their secrets, too. Over the course of a few hours many of their friends stopped by, including Seamus Finnegan, Dean Thomas, and a round-faced boy named Neville Longbottom. Seamus was wearing a green rosette, which apparently, according to Ron, was the Irish Quidditch team from the tournament. The rosette kept squeaking Troy. Mullet. Moran. Continuously in a tired voice. Naruto felt amused by its obvious struggle. Ron, Seamus and Harry started up a conversation about Quidditch, Naruto listening intently, trying to gather information. Hermione, growing tired of their Quidditch talk, buried her head in the standard book of spells. Grade 4 and tried to learn the summoning charm. Naruto had read that book, it wasn't really a summoning spell, it just made things come to you. It didn't even involve a contract or blood or anything. But he read it nonetheless. The round-faced boy named Neville listened jealously, Gran wouldn't let me to go, he said miserably, wouldn't buy tickets. It sounds amazing though. Naruto was laughing internally at his face. He looked like he had swallowed a lemon, but apparently, he was the only one he found this funny. It was, said Ron, look at this, Neville he rummaged through his trunk before pulling out a miniature Victor Crumb figurine. Wow. Neville whispered. We saw him right up close, as well. Ron chided, we were in the top box. For the first and last time in your life, Weasley. No one had noticed the door opening. Draco Malfoy had appeared in the doorway, Crabbe and Goyle flanking him. Evidently, they had heard the conversation through the ajar door. "Don't remember asking you to join us, Malfoy," Harry said coldly. "Weasley, what is that?" Malfoy said, pointing at a bit of fabric sticking out of Ron's trunk. Ron dove for it, but Malfoy was too quick for him. He seized it and pulled. Naruto watched with sick enjoyment as Malfoy proceeded to humiliate Ron. "You going to enter?" He taunted, probably knowing that Ron had no idea what was going on. "WW what?" Ron looked confused. "I said, are you going to enter, Weasley?" Malfoy questioned again, still holding Ron's robes. "I am." Everyone turned to face him. They all seemed to have forgotten he was there. Again. Naruto smirked, "You entering, Malfoy?" Draco didn't say anything, eyes narrowed at the boy who interrupted him. "You're entering, aren't you, Harry?" Naruto said, wanting to confuse them even more. He didn't like this Malfoy person, but he liked the games he played. "Entering?" Harry asked. "You didn't know?" Naruto gasped, listening to Kyuubi roar with laughter. "That's expected from someone who lives with muggles, eh?" Harry's face contorted. He had thought Naruto was a nice guy, but he was like Malfoy. Arrogant and loved humiliating people. Slap. Naruto clutched his face, eyes wide. Malfoy was staring at Hermione in shock, then suddenly. Naruto laughed. Naruto clutched his stomach, tears of amusement pouring down his face. "Oh man, this year is going to be fun." He chuckled, wiping a few stray tears of his face. He then sat down and grinned at them. "For me anyway." Dumbledore was worried. Hagrid had come back from Diagon Alley to tell him what this Naruto Uzumaki character was like. Apparently, he liked the look of Nocturne Alley, stole books and bought a fire-breathing fox. Dumbledore was rarely scared of anything. This child could very well be in that list. He just had to hope that it doesn't get too serious before his Hokage comes. Ron was in a bad mood. Malfoy had insulted his father, resulting in him breaking the apartment door. "Don't let Malfoy get to you, Ron." Hermione scolded after repairing the door. "Him? Get to me?" Naruto snickered. This was just too funny. The train pulled into the station and hundreds of students piled off. Naruto walked to the back of the train, searching for his trunk. He had left it somewhere. He walked into the last apartment. His trunk was lying on the seat, Hanu sitting on top. "There you are, come on, we need to get a carriage," he yelled, grabbing his trunk, Hanu at his heels. Naruto walked out of the train just as it departed. He realized that something was missing. The carriages had left. "Shit. Fuck. Fuck my life," he yelled, running down the path at top speed, the rain splashing onto the ground he left behind. Even though he was a ninja and he was running at top speed, running up hills tire people out. Naruto stood panting on top of the third hill. The carriages in the distance. "Let's do this shit." The last carriage that had left contained Malfoy, Crabbe, Goyle, Blaze and Pansy. Naruto jumped on, causing them all to jump, splashing them all with water. "Yo. Mind if I join? What the fuck is that?" he yelled suddenly, pointing at the front of the carriage. The 5 students stared at him. "Looks like a horse skeleton, to be honest. Why is it pulling the carriage?" Naruto pondered to himself. Excuse me," Pansy said, looking at him curiously. "Oh. They're Thestrals. That makes sense," he muttered, nodding to himself. Pansy looked taken aback. She was being ignored by a boy who was talking to himself. "Excuse me," she said even louder. Naruto looked over at her. "Yes. Who are you?" she asked. "Who are you?" he replied. "Pansy Parkinson. Uzumaki Naruto. Dadabeo." He smiled back. Suddenly, Blaze felt something wet touch his hand. He shrieked loudly and looked down. An orange fox stared innocently back. "And this is my fox, Hanu." He grinned. "So, tell me about pigfarts." 1. The entirety of the journey to Hogwarts consisted of the 5 Slytherins explaining the concept of Hogwarts to the blonde. From what he was told, the best lesson was defense against the dark arts, though he completely agreed with Draco when he said they should also learn the dark arts. To be honest, he found the wizarding world less exciting than he thought it would be, because, according to the others, none of things his books talked about were ever used. I mean, seriously, who wouldn't like to learn 1,350 diverse ways to torture someone? Listening to Draco rant about how popular the Potter kid was kind of reminded Naruto of him and Sasuke. Even the hair color was right. Naruto found the Slytherins much more interesting, considering that their parents knew a lot about the evils of the world. Blaze started telling Naruto about his parents' adventures with trolls and dragons, whilst Pansy nattered on about different potions her mother had discovered. Glancing behind him turned Naruto's eyes wide as he saw the castle of Hogwarts stretch out before him. The windows sparkled in the night and the turrets loomed over them, looking even more menacing because of the rain. The other 5 students watched him in amusement. The carriage pulled up and Naruto leapt out, Hanu following close behind. Dragging his trunk up the stone steps, Naruto looked around him. He started taking back what he said about the wizarding world. By the way, Blaze said behind him, why are you here, Naruto? Grinning, Naruto faced him, I'm here for the tournament. Dadabeo. As the students piled into the hall, Harry looked around, trying to spot Naruto. But he couldn't find the red and yellow hair anywhere. He walked past all the other tables, noticing Malfoy and his cronies slide along the edge. Nearly headless Nick appeared, gliding towards them. Good evening. He said, beaming. Says who? Harry muttered, emptying the water out of his shoes, hope they hurry up with the sorting. I'm starving. Harry was looking forward to the sorting, seeming as he had missed the others. Just as he was getting comfortable, a breathless voice said, Hiya, Harry. Colin Creevey, a third-year Gryffindor who worshipped Harry like a god. Hi, Colin, Harry murmured tiredly. Guess what, guess what? Guess. Guess. My brother, Dennis is starting this year. Colin cheered, bouncing up and down. Good, Harry said. He's really excited, I hope he's in Gryffindor. Keep your fingers crossed, Harry, he said bouncing off. After a few more minutes of chatter, Professor McGonagall led the timid-looking first-years into the hall. If Harry, Ron and Hermione were wet from the rain, it was nothing like the drowned-looking first-years, who looked as though they had swum across the lake. The smallest first-year, who was wrapped in Hagrid's coat, caught Colin's eye. He gave him a double thumbs up and mouthed the words, I fell in the lake, he looked extremely pleased with himself. Professor McGonagall placed a three-legged stool at the front of the hall. She then placed a brown hat on top. The brim of the hat widened and it said, 1,000 years or more ago when I was newly sown there lived 4 wizards of renown whose names are still well known. Bold Gryffindor, from Wildmoor Fair Ravenclaw, from Glen Sweet Hufflepuff, from Valley Broad Shrewd Slytherin, from Fen. They shared a wish, a hope, a dream they hatched a daring plan to educate young sorcerers thus Hogwarts School began. Now each of these 4 founders formed their own house, for each did value different virtues in the ones they had to teach. By Gryffindor, the bravest were prized far beyond the rest for Ravenclaw, the cleverest will always be the best. For Hufflepuff, hard workers were most worthy of admission and power-hungry Slytherin loved those of great ambition. While still alive they did divide their favorites from the throng yet, how to pick the worthy ones when they were dead and gone. 'Twas Gryffindor who found the way he whipped me off his, he'd founders put some brains in me so I could choose instead. Now slip me snug about your ears I've never yet been wrong I'll have a look inside your mind and tell where you belong. Naruto was amazed. The wizarding world had surprised him yet again. Who knew that a hat could sing? It could even sing well. He shook his head. Naruto was standing in the shadows of the hall, watching the ceremony in silent amazement. He was also stunned to find that no one had noticed him, giving him free range of the hall. Except. He couldn't eat the food. That made him sad. Humming slightly to himself as the sorting took place. When it came to Dennis Creevey, Naruto had to hide his sniggers from Harry's intense face. Gryffindor. The boy ran over to the cheering table, saying very loudly, for Naruto anyway, Colin. I fell in. It was brilliant. And something in the water grabbed me and pushed me back into the boat. It was probably the giant squid. Colin whispered excitedly back. Giant squid. Cool. When the ghost started to explain about trouble in the kitchens and Hermione ranted about house elves, Naruto tuned them out. Instead, he turned his head to listen to the Slytherins. But before that could happen, Dumbledore spoke up. Naruto tensed, readying his entrance when the time was right. So. Dumbledore started off cheerfully, now that we are all fed and watered. Naruto heard Hermione HMPH in the background. I must once more ask for your attention while I give out a few notices. Mr. Filch, the caretaker, has asked me to tell you that the list of objects forbidden inside the castle has this year been extended to include screaming yo-yos, fanged frisbees and ever-bashing boomerangs. The full list comprises some 437 items. Naruto tuned the rest out, preferring to scan the expressions of the students. Most were bored expressions. Also, it is my painful duty to inform you that the Inter-House Quidditch Cup will not take place this year. Naruto loved the looks of horror on most of the students' faces. This is due to an event that will be starting in October and continuing throughout the school year, taking up much of the teachers' time and energy, but I am sure you will join it immensely. Oh. I will. I have immense pleasure in announcing that this year at Hogwarts. He was cut off as a deafening rumble of thunder sounded through the hall and the doors to the great hall banged open. The man stood in the doorway, leaning heavily on his staff. Naruto noticed that one of the man's eyes were fake, he had a fake leg and awesome scars. He heard gasps echo around the hall as the man took of his cape. Naruto knew he was going to like this man. Even if the feelings weren't returned. He watched as the man slowly made his way to Dumbledore and shook his hand. The man then sat down, pulling a plate of sausages towards him, all the while keeping his fake eye on the hall. "May I introduce our new defense against the dark arts teacher," Dumbledore said brightly, gesturing to the man, Professor Moody. "Moody? As in Mad-Eye Moody?" Naruto's eyes grew round with shock. After a few minutes of whispering and stares, Dumbledore cleared his throat. "As I was saying, we are to have the honor of hosting a very exciting event over the coming months, an event that has not been held in over a century. It is my pleasure to inform you that the Triwizard tournament will be taking place this year. However, it's going to be the Quadwizard tournament." Dumbledore broke off, beaming. "You're joking." The red-headed twins from the red table yelled. The tension that had been building up broke and the hall erupted with laughter. Dumbledore was still chuckling as he said, "I am not joking, Mr. Weasley, though, now that you mention it. I did hear an excellent one over the summer about a troll, a hag and a leprechaun who go to a bar." McGonagall cleared her throat loudly. Naruto was disappointed, he had wanted to hear the joke. Dumbledore coughed awkwardly, "Now, where was I? Yes. The tournament involved lots of different tasks that different wizarding schools competed in. It established ties between young witches and wizards until the death toll mounted so high it was discontinued. Pansies. There have been many attempts to bring back the tournament, none which have worked. But our own departments of international magical cooperation in magical games and sports have decided that the time is ripe for another attempt. They have changed it so that none of the champions are killed. They literally are pansies. That's not going to stop you, eh kid? Ma, Caillou-chan, you know me so well. We live together." Naruto chuckled. The heads of the three other schools, Beauxbatons, Durmstrang and Konoha, will be arriving in October, however Konoha have already sent one student who has already arrived as the head wants him to partake in classes. Naruto grinned, it was time. He sprang from the shadows. After Dumbledore finished, a silence settled over the hall as they waited for the Konoha student. Harry realized that this was what Malfoy was talking about. And it pissed him off. Suddenly the hall filled with smoking, clogging up the occupants' noses. As the smoke cleared, there was 2 flashes of light and a sign was now hung above the teacher's head. It read. "Konoha School of Combat Magic. We'll beat you bitches in this competition. No sweat." The teachers looked horrified at the language used and the students were getting more excited. The doors to the hall slowly opened, revealing 2 foxes. 2. One fox was about the size of Fang, with orange fur, blood-red eyes and 3 tails. The second fox was about the size of a bear, this fox was a pale blue with red eyes and 5 tails. This fox walked in as if it owned the place, swinging its head from side to side, fixing students with a glare. As they reached the front desk, the larger of the 2 began to glow. But before anyone could see what was happening, the smaller had covered it with its tail. After a few seconds the tails were removed, revealing a blonde head and a human body. It was Naruto. A stunned silence had fallen over the hall. Naruto got up, grinning. He stood at the front of the hall, one hand on his hip and the other one punched in front of him. "My name is Naruto Uzumaki. And I'm gonna beat you all. Dadabeo." Harry's eyes widened in shock. Even Naruto knew. Dumbledore stood up again, smiling. "That was Konoha School." Naruto laughed, "You ain't seen nothing yet. Right, why you go and sit down at a table?" Dumbledore said, his smile a bit more forced. Naruto grinned and bounced over to the Gryffindor table. He sat down next to Harry, Hanu following close behind. Dumbledore cleared his throat and continued talking, "The selection for the champions will take place on Halloween. An impartial judge will decide which students are deemed worthy to partake in the tournament, winning the cup, glory for their school, and a grand prize of 1,000 galleons." 1,000 galleons. Ron said wistfully. "I'm totally entering," Fred whispered to Harry. The entire hall was listening to Dumbledore, hanging on to his every word. Dumbledore, most likely hearing the Weasley, continued, saying, "Some of you are eager to join, however the heads of the participating schools and the ministry itself have all agreed to set an age limit of 17. But before he could continue, he was cut off as students yelled their defiance. "However," he yelled, bringing the school to quiet, "we have made an exception, as the oldest contestant that Konoha could send was 16, 1. Everyone turned to Naruto, who avoided their looks, staring straight ahead with an amused smirk on his face. Those below the age line mustn't waste time trying to submit their names. He glanced over at the Weasley twins when he said this. Dumbledore continued his speech and then sent the students off to bed. "They can't do that," George said, refusing to move with a stream of students, "We're 17 in April." He yelled. "They're not stopping me from entering," Fred said stubbornly, standing with his brother, "the champions will be able to do all sorts of cool stuff and 1,000 galleons as a prize." "Yeah, 1,000 galleons," Ron said, with a faraway look in his eyes. "Ugh, come on," Hermione scolded, "we'll be the only ones left if we don't get a move on." As the twins and the golden trio moved away, Naruto stood in the shadows, watching completely amused by what he had seen. "So that's why you're here," an amused drawl came from behind him. "Ma. Draco, you mad that I can enter, but you can't," Naruto said, smirking slightly. "I don't care about this school, and I have no use for the money," Draco said. "You remind me of a friend." "That friend must be amazing then." "Nope. He's a total prick." Dadabeo. With that, Naruto ran off, leaving a fuming Malfoy behind. That was until. "Ma Draco, I'm lost." "Back with the Gryffindors." "What do I reckon?" Ron asked as they made their way to the common room. "Be cool to enter, wouldn't it? But I suppose they might want someone older we might not know enough." "I definitely don't," a gloomy voice said behind them. Neville stood next to Fred and George, a look that seemed as though someone had died on his face. "I expect my gran'd want me to try, though, she's always going on about how I should uphold the family honor and oops." Neville's foot had sunk through the staircase, one of the many trick steps in the castle. Ron and Harry started to pull him out. "Let me help you there, oh brave ones." Neville was out in a flash, with Naruto standing next to him, staring at the stairs. "Are there many steps like these?" he asked. "Yeah. Cool." Naruto grinned at them. "Now Draco told me where to go, but do you guys know where the portrait of a red fox is?" They all stared at him blankly. "No. Okay." And away he went, bounding down the corridors. "That's a weird chap," Neville said timidly. They all laughed. They continued on their way, stopping in front of a fat lady, who said, "Password." "Balderdash," George said, "a prefect downstairs told me." He added. The portrait swung open, revealing the room which they climbed into. Hermione cast the merrily dancing flames a dark look, muttering slave labor before bidding them goodnight. Harry, Ron and Neville climbed up the spiral staircase to their dormitory. They opened the door to find Dean and Seamus laughing on the floor and Naruto perched on the end of a bed. "Haha my shit. Seriously?" Seamus choked out. "Yep. It seriously was another mask." Naruto laughed. "Very listen to this." Dean laughed and Naruto and his friends tried TT2SC under his teacher's ma mask and it was another mask. Hahaha. "Naruto. Why are you here?" Harry asked, confused. Well I'm still lost." Naruto said, rubbing the back of his neck sheepishly. Harry sighed. "Seriously?" "Yup. So, I'm staying here for tonight." "What?" Naruto pulled out what looked like a scroll and bit his finger, the blood trickling down his hand. "Whoa. Naruto, dude. You don't need to hurt yourself." What? I'm not hurting myself. I'm just getting my stuff." Naruto said, looking confused. "Sure. I'll just sleep on the floor." So that night, Harry fell asleep, dreaming about Cho and the tournament. Naruto fell asleep on the floor, dreaming about the village and himself. As Hokage. In the morning, the boys asleep in Gryffindor Tower were woken up by an energetic blonde who wanted to eat breakfast quickly so he could explore. During breakfast, Hermione pored over their timetables, getting confused when Naruto was given one. "Bach-an wants me to continue studying here," he explained. They all nodded in understanding. Except Hermione, who proceeded to question the poor blonde. "How old are you?" 15. "Then why are you in 4th year classes?" "I only know up to 3rd year stuff." "You're taking ancient runes?" "Yup. It sounds fun." "The day's not that bad, we're outside in the morning." "Herbology with Hufflepuff," Ron said. "Which house is Hufflepuff?" "The yellow one," Harry replied. "Ugh. Care of magical creatures is good, but it's with Slytherin." "Will Draco be there?" Naruto asked. "Yeah, why?" "Because he said he was going to show me around." "Malfoy said that?" Harry said. "Yes, I did, Potter," came Malfoy's cold drawl. "Draco? So, tell me. How many love letters?" 12. Wahahahahahaha. Naruto fell on the floor, drawing gazes from the surrounding people. "You're like my friend." Draco blushed and glared at the blonde boy. "Shut up, Blondie." He then stormed away. "I like him," Naruto said, wiping away his tears. A few minutes later, the Gryffindors, Hufflepuffs and Naruto stood in the greenhouse. Professor Sprout showed her class the ugliest plants they had ever seen. They looked like thick black slugs instead of plants, protruding vertically out of the soil. "Pubatubers," Sprout said proudly, "they need squeezing. You will collect the pus." "The what?" Seamus and Naruto said in disgust. "Pus. Finnegan, Uzumaki, pus." Sprout said firmly, "and it's extremely valuable, so don't waste it. You will collect the pus, I say, and put it in these bottles." She indicated the bottles next to all the students. "Wear the dragon hide gloves, it can do funny things to the skin when undiluted." Naruto felt like this task was disgustingly satisfying. Squeezing the plant released the pus, and by the end of the lesson they had collected a few pints. Professor Sprout started talking about the use, but Naruto was distracted by the other plants. He poked one with tentacles, and they wrapped around his wrist. He felt a small pain, but it vanished as Kurama healed him. "Mr. Uzumaki, that plant is poisonous," Professor Sprout screamed. "That was the small pain. Give me your wrist." Naruto shrugged, wrenching the plant off him and showing the professor his wrist. Sprout looked closely but couldn't find any sign of infection. What? Naruto just stared blankly at her. Next, it was care of magical creatures. Hagrid stood outside his hut, hand on Fang's collar. A pile of box crates lay by his feet. "Mornin'," he said, grinning at them. "Bear wait for the Slytherins, they won't miss this blast ended Scroots." "What?" Ron yelled. Hagrid pointed cheerfully at the crates. "Ugh." Lavender shivered. Naruto thought that was the word that summed them up. They looked like deformed shell-less lobsters. Thinking about lobsters made Naruto hungry. "Anya just is hatched," Hagrid said proudly gesturing, "so he'll be able to raise 'em yourselves. Thought we'd make a bit of a project too of it." "And why would we want to raise them?" The Slytherins had arrived. Hagrid looked stumped. "I mean, what do they even do?" Hagrid opened his mouths, apparently thinking hard. "That's for next lesson, Malfoy." Naruto laughed. The giant had no idea what he was doing. "And what's so funny, Naruto?" "Nothing, sir." After a very hectic care of magical creatures lesson, which involved everyone but Naruto being hit by the Scroots blasts, hence their name, the weary students made their way up to the castle, going to the hospital wing before lunch. Care of magical creatures was now Naruto's favorite lesson. Watching people scream when they got hit made Naruto realize he hadn't killed anything in over 3 weeks. He was going to have to fix that. He fingered, and that sounds weird, the kunai in his pocket. "Hey Harry," he whispered. "What? Can you handle pain?" "Yeah, I guess." "Okay, give me your hand." What? "Come on, Harry, please." "No." Harry was looking at Naruto, seeing the way his hand moved in his pocket. He was holding something. Something he wanted to hurt Harry with. Naruto pouted. "These wizards are no fun." "Seriously, Kit?" "Yup." Naruto sighed and walked away, leaving a slightly terrified Harry behind. He might as well blow off some steam in the forest. Watching Naruto disappear around the corner made Harry realize that the boy's personality was out of control and wild. It had no bounds. That's what scared him. "What did he want?" Ron asked. "He asked me if I could handle pain, and when I said yes, he asked me to give him my hand." "Oh." They continued their walk to the hospital wing. Hermione remained quiet throughout the walk. One look at her face and Harry and Ron both knew she was deep in thought. "Naruto's strange," she said finally. "No shit. Language, Ronald." "What's strange about Naruto?" Harry asked, steering the conversation. "I mean, he was the only uninjured person in class. Also, don't you remember? We found him going down Nocturne Alley." "Oh yeah. He seemed pretty pissed when we stopped him." Ron contributed. Hermione thought for a moment he also stole all the books. They heard a snigger. Spinning around they found Naruto's fox staring at them with an amused expression. The foxes can have amused expressions. "Did that fox laugh at us?" Hermione asked, slightly scared. The fox sniggered again and then beckoned with its tail. They glanced warily at each other and then nodded. They walked cautiously after the orange fox. The fox sped up, breaking into a sprint round the last corner. The people behind him broke into a run, rounding the corner. Crashing into Draco Malfoy. "Ow. Potter. What is the meaning of this?" the blonde yelled, rubbing his back. "Can't talk, Malfoy, following a 3-tailed fox," Harry said hurriedly. "You mean Hanu?" Malfoy asked, standing slowly up. "Yeah. I'll come too then," Malfoy declared loudly, dusting off his clothes and following the fox, which was standing, with an unamused expression, at the entrance. The 3 Gryffindors and the Slytherin followed Hanu into the Forbidden Forest, stopping at the entrance. "Hanu," Malfoy said quietly, "we can't go in there. It's forbidden." Hanu gave Malfoy a no-shit expression and walked into the darkness. They followed him through the trees, having to run to catch up after slowing down to avoid tripping. The deeper they went in, the darker it got. They all pulled out their wands, lighting the area around them. Hermione let out a gasp, whilst Ron dropped his wand in shock. The surrounding trees were destroyed. They were also on fire. "Hanu, what the fuck is this?" Draco whispered to the fox, who seemed to be mocking them. Hanu ran off again, through the burning trees and into a clearing. Malfoy ran after him, not really questioning the fox. It was a smart-ass fox. The trio exchanged confused glances and then followed. Arriving in the clearing, they found Draco and Hanu staring in amazement at the sight set before them. Naruto was multiplying himself, then attacking himself with a glowing blue ball. He slammed it into another of himself. The other exploded into a poof. Then Naruto summoned another glowing orb and slammed it into the ground, making a giant crater. "Holy shit!" Ron yelled. Naruto looked up in shock and then grinned. He put his hand in a weird position, and this is Harry's paw, and disappeared. "Where'd he go?" Hermione whispered. "I'm right here," a voice said behind them. "Hey Caillou-chan," Naruto said sulkily. "What is it, Kit?" Kurama replied. "I'm lonely." "You have me, don't you?" Kurama replied. He looked at the small boy before him. Naruto was still blonde, but his hair was matted with blood and mud. The 6-year-old boy was covered in cuts and bruises. His clothes were ripped and his ribs were visible. "I don't see why no one likes me," the boy said, tearing up. He clenched his fists and looked the fox directly in the eye. "Kurama the nine-tailed fox," he declared loudly, "I want you to train me to be the best ninja ever." "Are you sure, Kit? I mean, I am hated in the Ville." Naruto cut him off by trying to squeeze through the bars of the cage. "I want you to train me, stupid fox." "Kit, stop. I'll train you, okay? You don't need to come in here." Kurama yelled, wrapping his tail round the boy, preventing him from entering. "Finally. Gosh, took your time." The little boy yelled happily. The fox smiled. The child was adorable. Draco and Hanu parted from the group, walking towards the dungeons whilst Naruto and the trio went to catch up on lunch. Hanu really liked Draco, he says they have a connection, but I think it's just because Draco likes to brush his fur. If Hanu was a person, he'd probably be bisexual, although I can't assume my fox's sexuality blah blah blah. Hermione shoveled food into her mouth, ignoring her surroundings. Her two friends were staring at her in disgusted awe. Is this the new stand on elf rights?" Ron questioned. "No." Hermione said, spraying food everywhere, "I just want to go to the library." "Hermione." Ron said in disbelief, "School has only just started. We don't even have homework." Hermione shrugged, continuing to shovel her food down. She then pushed her plate away and jumped up. "See you at dinner." She yelled, running out of the hall. "Where's she going?" Naruto asked. "Library." Harry and Ron replied. The bell rang, signaling the beginning of afternoon classes. The trio of boys made their way up to the divination tower. "Naruto." Ron said, "Aren't you also taking ancient runes?" "Yep." "Isn't that at the same time as divination?" "Yep." "How?" "Clones." "Sure." They entered the class and Naruto felt his senses clog up with perfume. He sneezed. "Good afternoon," a mysterious voice called. A thin woman with enormous glasses appeared. "Holy crap, it's a bat," a loud voice said. Everyone turned to the source. Naruto was sitting up straight staring at the professor in awe. "I knew Hogwarts had strange teachers and all, but I never knew that a bat could teach," he said loudly. Trelawney looked extremely offended. She turned her back on Naruto as she took the register. She peered at Harry through her glasses. "You are preoccupied, my dear," she said mournfully, "my inner eye sees past your brave face to the trouble. Niji would like this class, but he's a prick so no one cares, Bat Lady." Naruto was relaxing with his feet propped up on his desk, a bored expression on his face. He was spinning his cup on his finger, making the cup blurry. Crash. "I think I need a new cup." "Professor. Lavender is bleeding." Parvati yelled. Lavender was clutching her head, pulling a shard of china out of her head. It was part of Naruto's cup. Everyone turned to look at Naruto and were horrified to see that the blonde boy was sniggering whilst looking at the girl. "My dear boy, you have a bloodthirsty aura surrounding you, and one day, it will be your downfall." Professor Trelawney cried as she and Parvati carried Lavender out of the room. The bloodthirsty aura? How did she know? Arnold Weasley, who was charged with the possession of a flying car 2 years ago, was yesterday involved with a tussle with several Muggle lawkeepers, policemen, over a number of highly aggressive dustbins. Dustbins? What the hell? And what kind of name is Arnold? Naruto said loudly. "His name is actually Arthur," Ron mumbled. Naruto turned his head towards them. He smirked. "And Weasley? There's a picture." Malfoy snickered, showing them the picture. "That's stuffed, Malfoy," Harry said. "Come on, Ron. Oh right, you were staying with them over the summer, so tell me. Is his mum really that porky, or is it the picture?" The room had fallen silent. Naruto grabbed the back of Ron's robes, pulling him back. "At least his mum doesn't look like she has dung on her nose," Harry yelled back. Draco turned slightly pink, a furious expression plastered on his face. "Don't insult my mother, Potter." "Yeah." Pansy piped up, "At least his mother is still alive." "High five." Naruto yelled, a grin forced on his face. Pansy grinned and reached to hit his hand. Naruto's grin suddenly slipped off his face, replaced by a sadistic smirk. He grabbed her wrist and gripped it tight. "Never bring up a dead mother like that again," he snarled, and he snapped her wrist back, the crack echoing down the corridor. "And to think, I kinda liked you." Pansy was white with shock, staring as the blood poured down her wrist. she then screamed. Draco stared at Naruto in horror. Why you broke her wrist? I did. Oops. I was trying to break her arm, here give it to me. I'll try again. Naruto exclaimed, reaching for her other arm. Anzi shrank back and sprinted down the corridor. Naruto smiled and turned away. Oh no you don't, laddie. The crowd turned to the staircase and saw the new professor. Mad-Eye Moody. He had his wand in front of him, pointing at a pure white ferret, standing where Malfoy stood. He tried to curse Blondie here. He said, gesturing to an amused Naruto. Professor Moody. A voice yelled. It was Professor McGonagall. What do you think you are doing? She screeched loudly. Teaching. Moody deadpanned while swinging the ferret up and down with his wand. Alistair? That isn't a student, is it? McGonagall asked. Maybe the other said, not meeting her gaze. No. Cried McGonagall, running down the stairs and pulling out her wand. A moment later, with a loud snapping noise, Draco had reappeared in a crumpled heap on the floor. Moody, we never use transfiguration as a punishment. McGonagall said weakly, surely Dumbledore told you that. Might have mentioned it, yeah Moody said rubbing the back of his head sheepishly. Whilst they were talking, Naruto sidled up to Malfoy and put a comforting hand on his shoulder. Malfoy looked at him wearily and then allowed Naruto to drag him away to the hospital wing. So, he could apologize to Pansy. The Gryffindor fourth years were looking forward to their first DADA lesson. Most arrived, queuing outside Moody's classroom before the bell had even rung. The only people who weren't there were Hermione and Naruto. Hermione turned up just in time for the lesson. Sorry, been in the library. Yeah, we know. Naruto said, coming up behind them. Come on, Harry muttered, not meeting Naruto's eyes, we might not get decent seats. They all nodded, Naruto fixing Harry with an icy stare. Naruto knew what that meant. Harry feared him. Just like everyone else. If Harry feared him, he might as well have fun with it. Naruto started muttering. Curiosity killed the cat. But satisfaction bought it back. But the cat was never the same again. Through the horror and pain of feeling itself die. The cat became insane. And because the cat kept coming back through satisfaction. It could never rest again. The look on Harry's face was priceless. That's what, Naruto whispered in his ear, that represents me, you know. The trio of friends hurried to the front, taking 3 empty seats next to each other, whilst Naruto sat at the back. He took out his copy of The Dark Forces. A Guide to Self-Protection. He found the book title odd. Why didn't wizards learn to protect themselves from a youthful age? Crapley was influencing him again. Listening intensely, Naruto could hear the faint clunk of Moody's leg. A few seconds later the whole class was staring at the door. Suddenly, the door swung open and Moody entered, looking frightening to everyone but Naruto. You can put those away, he growled. He received confused looks and elaborated, those books. You won't be needing them. Everyone put the books away, the classroom filling with excitement. Moody took the register, fixing his eye on each student as they answered. Right then, he said, as the last person answered, I've had a letter from Professor Lupin about this class. Lupin? Isn't he the werewolf that Potter and his friends were talking about? Wow, this school must like animals teaching. It's rude to eavesdrop, you know. Wasn't eavesdropping just information gathering? Their conversation was cut short when Moody said loudly, you're behind, very behind on dealing with curses. Everybody perked up instantly. Curses? Like torture jutsus perhaps? So, I'm here to bring you up to scratch on what wizards can do to each other. I've got 1 year to teach you how to deal with the dark. Aren't you staying? Ron blurted out loudly. Odd. Moody fixed his eye on Ron and then smiled. It was a slightly creepy smile, in Naruto's opinion. Naruto focused on Moody's face as the man spoke to the redhead. Naruto watched as the fake eye swiveled round the classroom before stopping on him. Naruto stared back until Moody turned his full face to him. So, he glanced at Naruto, straight into it. Curses. They come in many strengths and forms. Like jutsus. Now, according to the Ministry of Magic, I'm supposed to teach you counter curses, but not show you the illegal dark curses themselves until your 6th year. But, Dumbledore reckons you guys can handle it. I definitely can. The wizard who puts an illegal curse on you isn't going to tell you what he's going to do. You need to be prepared. You need to be alert and watchful. I know all this, I learned back at the academy. Remember kid. These wizards live in a world where you may be able to live your life without seeing murder or becoming victim to theft. You do have a point. You need to put that away, Miss Brown, when I'm talking. Lavender jumped. Naruto smirked, staring at the stitches in the side of her head. She blushed, stuffing her completed horoscope into her bag. So do any of you know which curses are the most heavily punished by wizarding law? Ron's hand was one of the first in the air. He waved it wildly around until Moody pointed him out. My dad told me about one, it is called the Imperious Curse or something. Yes, your father would know about that one. Moody stood up heavily and walked over to a drawer. Opening it, he pulled out 3 jars with a large black spider in each. He opened one jar and tipped the spider onto his hand. He pointed his wand at it and said, Imperio. The spider leapt out of his hand and swerved back and forth on a fine thread, as if it was on a trapeze. Kurama. Apparently the spell can control you. Anyone want to volunteer? Moody called over the laughter. No one raised their hands. Moody sighed. You, he pointed at Naruto, Blondie. How about you? Naruto raised his eyebrows. Imperio. Get up and dance. No. Come on, show your brilliant dance skills for the entire world to see. Come on. Kid will not be doing that. Yeah. I won't. Suddenly, an unseen force, Kurama, pushed the spell out of Naruto's head. Moody was thrown back into the shelf behind and quickly stood up, looking rather excited. You're a funny one. Naruto smirked. Constant vigilance. Moody barked loudly. Everyone jumped, now. Does anyone know another one? Another illegal curse? Hermione's hand shot up again, and to everyone's surprise, Neville's. Even Neville looked surprised at his own daring. Yes. Moody said. Well, there is one the Crititis curse, Neville mumbled. Moody looked very intently at Neville, eyebrows furrowed. Your last name is Longbottom, correct? Neville nodded shakily. The Crititis curse, Moody said loudly, needs to be a bit bigger for you to get the idea. I'm excited. Engorgio. The next spider from the jar grew 2 times its normal height. Naruto heard a scraping sound and was delighted to see Ron moving away in fear. It made him feel all warm and fuzzy inside. Moody raised his wand and yelled, Crucio. The spider began to spasm horribly, its legs buckling beneath it. It twitched horribly and rocked from side to side. Naruto could hear the high-pitched scream it released. One. Stop it. Hermione screeched. Naruto covered his ears. Everyone turned to look at her, following her gaze, not to the spider, but to Neville. Neville's hands were pale white and clenched under the table, his eyes wide and horrified. Moody turned his eye to Neville, raised his wand and cancelled the spell. The spider lay on the table before shrinking down to its original size. That's a cool spell. Where can I learn it? Hermione turned and glared at Naruto. That spell is a torture spell, she hissed. Naruto grinned, I know. Bastard. Ron yelled. Language. Naruto chirped. Moody ignored them, but glanced interestedly at Naruto. And the last one. Hermione shakily raised her hand, Avada Kedavra, she whispered. Moody took the third and final spider from the jar and placed it on the table. Avada Kedavra. He yelled. A flash of blinding green light poured from the wand and hit the spider. It crumbled upon the table, dead. The killing curse. No counter curse and no survival, apart from one. Who is sitting in this room right now? Everyone turned to look at Harry. That's a cool spell. But I don't understand. How is it the worst? What do you mean, Uzumaki? Oh crap, I said it out loud, didn't I? Yes you did. Oh, what I meant was that the Imperious curse controls you. The Crititis curse tortures you, but the killing curse gives you a quick and easy death. Oh. What's the punishment for using them, by the way? Moody looked at him weirdly. Well, you get sent to Azkaban prison for using any of those 3 spells. Oh. Get out your quills, copy this down, he barked. The rest of the lesson was spent copying down notes and glancing, terrified, at Naruto. When class ended, most people discussed the curses. The 3 Gryffindor protagonists, however, discussed Naruto. Bloody hell, he's mad, honestly. I can see where you are coming from, Ronald, however we cannot jump to conclusions, Hermione said, matter-of-factly. I agree with Ron, Hermione, Harry said. Same. A voice said cheerfully, behind them, I agree with whatever you were just talking about. Naruto said cheerfully. Right. So, what were you just talking about? The curses. Hermione said quickly. Naruto narrowed his eyes, not believing her. Sure, well. See you later. He bounded away. He's bloody weird. Oh, hurry up. Hermione hissed. Not the ruddy library again, Hermione, Ron whined. No, Neville, she whispered, pointing down a side passage. That was a fun lesson. I think you're the only one who thought that. You know these wizards are too soft, I mean, they send murderers to prison, I mean. What happens if they come back to get their revenge? You do have a point. I always have a point. Let me take over. No then, fuck off. Bastard. Crap, someone's coming, let me take over. Please. Fine. Naruto's eyes glowed red and turned to face the person. It was Mad-Eye Moody. Ah, I was correct, he whispered, there is something odd about you. Odd? What do you mean, odd? The Kyuubi said, trying to make his voice sound normal. He could hear Naruto laughing in the back of his head. Mark my words, Uzumaki, I will find out what it is, Moody snarled. The demon smirked back. I can't wait. The boy snuck into the shop behind a family. He grabbed an apple and slunk back out. Just as he left, a cold hand gripped his shoulder. "Where do you think you're going?" The man tightened his grip. Naruto winced. "I'm hungry," he whispered. "Pay for it," the man barked. "I don't have any money," Naruto mumbled. "Starve," the man yelled, wrenching the apple from the little boy's hands. Naruto glared at him, eyes turned red in anger. The man threw the apple back in fear. "Demon," he hissed, grabbing his child's hand and storming down the street. Naruto smiled down at the apple in his hand. A demon had advantages and disadvantages. Having the demon meant people hated you. But it also meant you could scare people into doing whatever you wanted. And little 9-year-old Naruto was going to milk it for all it's worth. "So, these wizards suck." Hermione froze. "They do." She walked slowly down the corridor. "Don't deny it." Naruto's voice drifted from a locked classroom. Loud footsteps caused Hermione to jump. She spun around, clamping her head over the mouth of the other. She had expected it to be Ron or Harry, hence the action she took. She was wrong. It was Draco Malfoy. "Bran," he started. Hermione put her finger to her lip in a shushing motion, gesturing to the door. "See, I knew you would agree with me," Naruto said loudly. Draco looked at Hermione. "Who's he talking to?" he whispered. "Himself probably," Hermione muttered back. Draco snorted. "What are you talking about?" "Those spells sounded awesome," Naruto yelled. "He probably thinks that no one can hear him." "What do you mean I'm talking out loud?" "Wait, I'm talking out loud shit." The door clicked open. Hermione and Draco turned to run, but a hand clamped down on their shoulders. Naruto's cheeks brushed theirs. "Whatever you just heard never happened, do you understand?" he growled into their ears. They nodded quickly. "Good." He cheered, "See you later." Then he was gone. "That was oddly terrifying," Draco said. "Let's never speak of this again," he said, looking at Hermione. The bushy-haired girl nodded. The two nodded to each other and walked their separate ways. Library. "God damn, I can't believe I conversed with Kurama out loud." "Ooh, look at you with your big words." "Shut up, you stupid fox." "No need to get your panties in a twist," the mighty fox said. "By the way, why are we at the library?" "I'm researching seals and runes," Naruto said, out loud. "Again?" "Quite," the librarian bellowed. The tick mark appeared on the blonde's forehead. "Shut up, you old hag," he mumbled. She appeared behind him. "What did you just say, brat?" "Nothing." "That's what I thought." The dark aura surrounded Naruto, making anyone walking into the library shiver with fear and walk back out again. The golden trio walked in, the boys ignoring Hermione, who was ranting about something. They weren't really listening. The deadly aura surrounded them. They involuntarily shivered. "That's him," Hermione whispered. Naruto jerked his head up, twisting it around and staring blankly at them. The cheerful eyes were now emotionless. "Then Naruto?" Hermione stuttered. Said boy stood up slowly, beckoning with his hand for them to follow. They awkwardly stumbled after him. He led them to Snape's empty classroom, where a cauldron stood bubbling and a seal was set on the table. They looked at him, waiting for an answer. "I kinda I need some of your blood," the blonde said, rubbing the back of his head sheepishly. "Why?" Harry yelled. "Well, you see, I have to also continue with my studies from my old school." "Wait," Ron cut him off, "I thought the lessons we had were in your old school." "We're a combat school, which means we didn't have many academic subjects, so my headmistress was like, Naruto, you'll be having twice as much work and blah blah blah, you know." Naruto replied quickly. "So, what's this about?" Hermione said, gesturing to the cauldron. "I'm developing a new spell," Naruto said. Only Hermione seemed to notice the hesitation in his words. "A new spell that needs your blood," Naruto said cheerfully. "Hell no." Ron yelled loudly. "Please," Naruto seemed to beg, "I'll do your homework for you," he suggested. This caught the boys' attention. Harry and Ron looked at each other unsurely. "How much do you want?" Ron's voice cracked slightly. "Not much," Naruto said, walking over to the cauldron. "Just a few drops, you know." "Yeah, you know." Naruto then pulled out an oddly shaped knife, stalking closer to the trio. Just a small prick of the finger. "I'm not Sleeping Beauty," Ron yelled loudly. Naruto just grabbed his finger and stabbed the knife into it. Harry jerked awake, he was lying with his face in a book in the library. "Oh, Harry, you're awake," Hermione said, piling books into Ron's arms. "What happened?" Harry asked, rubbing the sleep from his eyes. "You fell asleep during Hermione's lecture on how teenagers our age need plenty of sleep," Ron said, laughing. Harry snorted. "Where's Naruto?" Harry asked. "Oh, he left ages ago," Hermione said, placing books back on shelves. She then looked at the clock over the archway. "Crap," she yelled, "the other schools are arriving now." "What?" "Out. Get out." The trio ran out the library, ignoring the librarian's yells. Why does she yell when it says no yelling in the library? Ron questioned as they shoved their way through the crowd. The girls stumbled backwards, knocking the person behind, who then whacked the person behind them, creating a domino effect which was put to stop by a very bored Naruto. He just stepped to the side, the girl who hoped that he would catch her fell face first into the ground. Now, you see, a nice person would have offered to help her up. But Naruto was not a nice person. The girl slowly made her way to her knees and was met with a soulless stare from the blonde. She smiled nervously and shrank back in fear. Smiling grimly at her, Naruto turned his back. He come face to face with the golden trio. Why are you such an asshole? Hermione spat. Naruto shrugged. Where I come from, I'm pretty nice, although not as nice as Hinata. Naruto walked away mumbling about who was nice and who was an ass. Suddenly, the breeze picked up. The Hogwarts students and Naruto looked up and a gasp rippled through the crowd. Overhead a carriage was being pulled by 4 magnificent Pegasi. It flew over their heads towards Hagrid, who was directing the landing. The carriage slowly opened. A woman larger than Hagrid stepped out, looking around wearily. Next, more than 20 girls flowed out after. They moved like water, impressing most people. Naruto was not one of them. As the girls emerged, Naruto's mind went into hyperdrive, figuring out how long it would take for him and the fox to break them. They decided it wouldn't take long. The ground began to shake, making all heads turn to the lake. The water began to shake violently before something began slowly making its way up through the water. A top of a mast appeared, followed by the crow's nest. The rest of the ship followed afterwards. The ground ceased shaking and everything became calm once again. The occupants of the boat walked like soldiers down the ramp, trying to look intimidating. They were failing. The teachers began ushering the students inside, saying something about the feast getting cold waiting. The corridors were full of students talking about the 2 school arrivals. The boys talking about the sexy Frenchies, lol, and the girls talking about the hot derms. Yes, Naruto did ignore most of the conversation. Keyword most. An interesting conversation popped up with some of the blue people. Naruto forgot their house name. Anyway. They were talking about the entrance ceremony and what the others would perform. That was the boring part. But then they started talking about Konoha. Granger and I were in the library researching the Konoha school when we stumbled across something interesting. Naruto narrowed his fox senses on the 2 girls. What was it? The other asked. Apparently, it's a Japanese school. Wow. Really, that's so cool. Yes, the other sighed, but the tournament was originally for European schools only. One. That can't be right. I know. Plus, there is something suspicious about that Uzumaki guy. What do you mean? Well, Hermione was telling me that he was talking to himself about the unforgivable curses and about how cool they are. Those spells are bad though. I know. That's what we were saying. Should we keep an eye on him? That's a good idea, tell Granger. The 2 girls then started talking about the other schools. Looks like I got myself a couple of stalkers. Great Hall. The Great Hall was silent as the students were waiting in anticipation for the entrances. Dumbledore stood up, spreading his arms. He said loudly, please welcome the students of Beauxbatons. The hall cheered loudly and the occasional catcall was heard. The doors opened slowly and the French girls flowed slowly in. They blew kisses, created beautiful blue doves, and generally tried to look sexy, lol. The headmistress curtsied to Dumbledore, who bowed back. The girls then chose a table to sit. The boys yelled and cheered, trying to draw them to their table. Naruto, alone near the back of the Ravenclaw table, ignored everyone. He had sat at the Bluebird table to see if the 2 girls would give him more information, but all he heard were their jealous eyes. The dainty thud next to him brought him out of the clouds. He turned his head and saw a pretty blue girl sitting next to him. My name is Gabrielle Delacour, too. She said sweetly. Naruto nodded and smiled, making her blush. Naruto Uzumaki. He exclaimed. She giggled. Dumbledore stood up, clearing his throat and saying, welcome Durmstrang. There was a small round of applause before a group of beefy-looking men boys marched in. They held sticks and banged them on the ground a lot. Naruto was confused about how this was impressive but was mildly, only mildly, surprised to see them create an actual fire dragon. But then he realized that Sasuke could do better and he was stupid, Sasuke, not Naruto. The boys eluded the professor before sitting down next to the Slytherins. Naruto was delighted to see that Malfoy was looking slightly uncomfortable. Speaking of Malfoy, Naruto wondered where Hanu was. Platters of food appeared in front of them and all the students dug in. Naruto, deciding to find out his enemy's weaknesses, struck up a conversation with Gabrielle. Across the hall, the golden trio was glowering at Naruto. How can an asshole like him be talking to a hot chick? Ron snarled. Ron, she doesn't know that yet. Hermione scolded. Dumbledore stood up, clearing his throat yet again. Now that we're all fed and watered, I would like to explain how we pick the champions. Filch ran in carrying a covered object. He placed it in front of him. He panted heavily whilst moving away. Dumbledore smiled at him before pulling at the cloth. It reveled a huge golden cup. Behold. The Goblet of Fire. What a creative name. Like you could do any better. Shut up. Shit. Kurama's laughter echoed through the back of his head as everyone stared at him. Dumbledore coughed, bringing the students' attention back to him. Anyone over the age of 17 and Naruto can put their name in the goblet, and in a few weeks we will reveal who the champions are. Everyone started muttering between themselves as they stood up. After the dinner was over, students made their way to their common rooms. The other two schools and Naruto made their way to their rooms. I'm skipped to like 2 weeks later cause I'm a lazy ass. Naruto was placing his name in the Goblet of Fire. He still thinks it's a stupid name. He heard two voices coming from the opposite door. He guessed they didn't realize he was up, seeing as it was after midnight. Has it worked? Yes. Moody? Naruto thought. Good. The other voice sounded foreign, like one of the Durmstrang boys. Harry Potter will definitely be chosen. And Uzumaki. Researching. That boy could be useful. Yes. What? Another Akatsuki. Shut up. The voices drifted away, leaving Naruto standing, confused. The next morning, Naruto was walking down the corridor. He suddenly heard laughter. The doors to the goblet flew open and the Weasley twins ran out, giggling. They also had beards. Naruto watched silently in the doorway as other students put their names in the goblet. He spotted Gabrielle and her sister, Fleur, on the other side of the hall. They were muttering between themselves before Fleur stood up and walked towards the goblet. It'd be hilarious if she grew a beard. Sadly, she didn't. The day Konoha arrives. Naruto was up at the crack of dawn. Today was the day that the European schools felt the mighty presence of Konoha. Now he had someone to train with other than those dragons. Naruto had never seen an actual dragon before. Flashback. Naruto was bored. He had spent the past few days in the library researching seals. It was extremely boring, but he continued, pushing himself past his mental capacity. It was a good thing that he had healing chakra or he'd have extremely painful headaches. He stood up, stretching his arms. He packed the books back under his bed before staring out the window. It was 2 a.m. and Naruto was wide awake. He grinned, thinking about all the pranks he could pull. So, Weasley is scared of spiders. Naruto grinned. He was going to have to borrow some spiders from the forest. This meant he could train along the way, maybe fight that massive spider who tried to eat him more than once. He grinned happily before opening his window and jumping out. He landed on the lake, chakra pumping through his feet. He sprinted silently past the Durmstrang boat before reaching the edge of the forest. He entered the forest, pulling chakra to his eyes and ears, enhancing them even further. He picked up faint yelling and roaring. Deciding that this was much more interesting, Naruto sprinted through the trees before arriving in a clearing. Whoa, oh hey Hanu. The orange fox gave him an unimpressed look. Naruto grinned sheepishly whilst stroking the fox's fur. They're big, aren't they, Hanu? Said fox snorted in return. The men beneath them seemed to give up for the night, retiring to the tents pitched a few hundred meters away. After the last man vanished, the 2 foxes jumped down, landing silently in front of the dragons. Kit. Let me play. So, the Kyuubi came out to play. In the morning, the dragon tamers woke up to find the dragons unconscious on the floor. Whoever did this was strong. They all thought simultaneously. Back at the school, a blonde shinobi and a fox sneezed. Naruto was the first in the hall, a bubble of excitement surrounding him. Anyone who walked into the bubble was overwhelmed by the massive excitement that the blonde was releasing. I wonder what's got him so excited, Harry said, piling sausages onto his plate. Probably killed someone, Ron muttered. Why don't we go and ask him? Hermione said, standing up. They walked over to the blonde. Hey Naruto. He turned around. Why are you so excited? He grinned, you'll see. They sighed and sat back down. By then, everyone was in the hall. Dumbledore stood up. Usually, I don't make announcements in the morning, but today is quite exciting. Everyone turned to look at Naruto, whose excitement was growing by the minute. Today is the day that Konoha School of Combat Magic is arriving. The hall burst into excited chatter, the excited aura increasing by over 200. Filch has just told me that they have arrived. Dumbledore shouted over the chatter. Silence fell across the hall as a sinister aura oozed through the door. Wow. Naruto said loudly, Tsunade-chan is pissed. The door flew open as a chair flew in, hitting Naruto in the face. I'm not old. A voice yelled, and in stalked a furious busty blonde woe's face was pulled back into a sneer. Instead of retorting, Naruto leapt up and hugged her before running out the hall. Another wave of silence crushed everyone but was soon broken by. Team. Then a loud crash followed, filling the hall, before a large bout of angry yelling echoed afterwards. Instead of looking worried, the woman smiled. "I missed him." She then turned to Dumbledore. "My name is Tsunade Senju, headmistress of Konoha, and I am not to be held guilty for any damage they may cause, as that is part of their magic program." Just as she said that, a large crack appeared in the wall, but before anyone could move, it completely broke, all thanks to two stupid shinobi. "Sasuke-kun. Naruto. Stop that." A pink-haired girl yelled. But the two boys wouldn't stop. Just as the girl was about to stop them, a blonde girl jumped her, screaming obscenities. Thuds echoed down the corridors as the other students of the school fought. Tsunade just watched, amused. "Excuse me," Dumbledore said, worry wrinkles appearing, "can you try to minimize the destruction?" Tsunade sighed. She slammed her hands on a table, quiet. The fighting students all fell quiet. She nodded, approvingly. "Okay, I have a few things to say. No. 1, no fighting inside the castle." She looked directly at Naruto and Sasuke. "Any fighting will take place on the lake or inside the forest." She gestured to the forest outside. No. 2, any questions you may have can be asked to Jiraiya, Shizune or me, when I'm not drunk. Saying this, she took a swig, that's a weird word, from her sake bottle. "And finally, please don't kill anyone, I barely have enough money to cover building damage." "Gambling." Someone coughed. A tick mark appeared on her forehead, let alone funeral expenses, but since you haven't seen each other in a long time, carry one, those riles will be put into play tomorrow. With that, she fell into her chair, a bottle of sake in her hand, as her students began fighting again. "Wow, this school is big." "I know, right? What a youthful place this is." "Holy. Did you see outside?" The forest was huge. HN. Team. Dope. "Look Gara, 1, the pictures are moving." Think it's great. "Ma, Hinata-chan, did you bring my ramen?" "Dope, I did." "Thanks team." "Holy crap, is that a squid?" "Woof." "Akamaru. Don't chase that cat." "Shit. I think I just walked through something." "Is that armor moving?" Harry Potter was trailing the wizards of Konoha, along with Draco Malfoy, Cho Chang and Cedric Diggory. Dumbledore had suggested that one member of each house showed the new students around, seeing as Naruto still hadn't found his room. The blonde boy had been switching between the Gryffindor and Slytherin common rooms as, even though he had been given directions multiple times, he just couldn't find the room. Harry sighed. Naruto's friends were extremely weird. One looked like a panda, another had naturally pink hair, according to Naruto, and two seemed to be blind. Though they could see perfectly fine. Another had the thickest pair of eyebrows ever, was wearing a green spandex, and had a bowl cut. Also, whenever he smiled, his teeth glinted. It was weird. Right now, he was following the group, who were wandering aimlessly, as the Hogwarts students were too awkward to tell them they were going the wrong way. My god, why did the stair break? At least Choji won't fall. So. I'm fucking stuck. Sorry Kiba. Harry felt his eyebrow twitch. Why are they all so idiotic? There are many steps like that, Cho supplied helpfully. They all turned to face her. There were 15 of them, all staring at her intensely. Cho blushed. Man, she reminds me of you, Hinata. Naruto said loudly. Said girl blushed and fainted. Her brother, well that's what Harry though he was, ran forward, catching before she fell. Naruto. I told you to stop doing that. He cried. The blonde flapped his hand, nah, sorry Niji, Dadabeo. Oh, the guy with a duck butt said. Team. Naruto yelled back. Harry sighed. Draco looked distinctly furious, while Cedric smiled. Cho was still red. So, a girl with pink hair spoke, since, this idiot, she looked directly at Naruto, doesn't know where we're going, can you tell us? Malfoy stepped forward, I'll show you. He declared. See, Harry heard Naruto whisper, just like the team. He ended up on the floor, clutching his head in pain. Apparently, the pink had punched him. Hard. The blonde Slytherin led them down a corridor. Who's there? A soft voice called. They all stopped. The 15 Japanese students started whispering, Harry heard some random words and phrases. I didn't sense where did the voice it sounds like Fox. They started to venture down the corridor, still whispering. Draco and Harry exchanged glances. They had both seen the eyes. Cold and ruthless. All 15 pairs. They warily followed them down the dark corridor. Oh. This is where the room was. Naruto's voice floated down the corridor. Out of the corner of his eye, Harry saw Draco face palm and mutter I told you so. The blonde girl with her hair tied back emerged from the shadows. She smiled and said, Hi. My name is Ino, I just came to thank you for showing us around, but you can go and hang out with your friends. The 4 Hogwarts students glanced at each other, Cho smiled back, it's fine, we don't mind show. Ino waved it away, no. Goo. Okay, Draco said, if you say so. They all looked at him. What? He shrugged. Oh. By the way, can you tell Naruto that Hanu sleeps with me most nights? Ino smirked and nodded. She turned and disappeared back into the shadows. We need to decide a password. Naruto clapped his hands together. I say we call it Ichiraku's Mizo Ramen. No. Sakura said bluntly. Fine, he pouted. Why don't we make the password world domination with Kurama? The fox said in the back of his mind. Yeah no. Naruto heard the fox huff. He laughed out loud. He ignored the stares. Why don't we name it? Ino thought for a second. Konoha 12. The rookie 9 are awesome. Kiba contributed. All these ideas are awful, the fox painting supplied. They glared at her. She hid behind her tail, sheepishly. Naruto rolled his eyes. Let's name it holy shit. Naruto yelped as a ghost floated through the wall behind him. The red fox smirked, nice password. What? Yep. The fox yipped, your new password is holy shit. Yes, no one was impressed. The fox portrait swung open and the 15 ninja climbed wearily through. The goblet picks the names tomorrow, right? Choji asked, hand in a bag of crisps. The 14 others nodded. Well, everyone but Gaara, Sasuke and Iji. They were exhausted. Our duties? Shikamaru questioned. They all nodded. Who's first? I'll go first. Naruto piped up. Everyone was too tired to argue. At night, Naruto roamed the corridors, avoiding teachers, pranking ghosts and stepping on one of Hanu's tails. He arrived back at the portrait covered in ash and healing burns. No one was up yet, so Naruto set about arranging his weapons. Can I take over? Well, I'm bored, don't kill anyone, I want to be there. Thanks. Kyuubi, what are you doing? A voice came from behind. It was Sakura. Playing. Did Naruto give you permission? Of course, he did. Just don't kill anyone. The kid said that as well. Sakura glared at him before walking to the bathroom. Kurama snickered to himself before stretching the muscles in his back. He pushed past the portrait, the fox squeaking in surprise. The mighty fox sauntered down to the hall, smirking slightly at the prospect of all the things he could do. He walked slowly towards the Gryffindor table, feeling Tsunade stare on him. She knew that sometimes the Kyuubi and Naruto swapped, but she was slightly annoyed that they did it here of all places. Kurama settled himself at the edge of the table, away from the students. He started to give off a come near me and I'll kill you aura, which everyone but the golden trio felt. Hey Naruto, Ron said, trying to hide his fear. Apparently, the blonde still scared him a bit. The blonde hummed. Oh well, how are you? Hermione asked, not quite knowing what to say. Kurama tried to make his voice as Naruto-like as possible. I'm good, what about you? The trio stilled, Naruto's voice sounded forced and different. Are you okay, Naruto? Harry asked suspiciously. Why wasn't he turning to face them? Yeah, just got a cold. He still didn't turn to face them, eating the food on his plate was way more important. The trio nodded uncertainly, but before they could say anything, the other Konoha wizards walked in. Taking the hint, the trio moved away, but sat down near them so they could hear the conversation. What are you doing here, Kyuubi? Kiba muttered. The trio sighed in disappointment, they were speaking Japanese. I was bored, Kyuubi said, shrugging, Naruto let me come out to play. Just don't kill anyone. Would never dream of it, at least, not without Naruto. The trio looked down at their breakfast, disappointment etched on their features. They had been hoping that the Konoha students would give them some interesting information. Hermione had noticed that Naruto had come out of Naruto's mouth and the boy with the dog had said Kyuubi as a name. She decided. She had to go to the library. Tsunade was not impressed. She was listening to their conversation, but the dumb fox wasn't giving away his plans. She knew he wouldn't, but she had been hoping for at least something. After the shinobi and wizards finished their breakfast, the Gryffindors, Slytherins and Konoha shinobi walked to potions. Usually, the walk to potions was silent and sullen, apart from a few snide remarks from the Slytherin, but this time was different. The Hogwarts students watched in amusement as the Konoha students whispered and pointed at things in the castle. The way they acted, it was like they had never seen moving pictures, but that was impossible. Right? When they had all settled down, Gryffindors on one side, Slytherins on another and the Konoha pupils in the middle, Snape started the lesson. Most students were mildly surprised when they weren't fazed by Snape breathing down their necks, especially when Kiba's cauldron exploded. It's like they're used to stuff much worse. Harry thought, looking as Snape tried to scare Pineapple Head into actually doing the work. The pineapple, named Shikamaru by the giggling Naruto next to him, raised his head lazily, picked up a bad ear, dropped it in his cauldron, then promptly fell back asleep. It got even funnier when Snape tried to find something wrong with Sasuke's potion. The Uchiha gave the professor his famous Uchiha glare and was impressed on the inside when the teacher hid his fear very well. However, the shinobi could see the slight fear in his eyes and the tense muscles in his shoulders. He was probably in fight or flight mode and was resisting the urge to flee. Snape turned away and tried to check Gaara's potion. You could guess how that turned out. Yes, Kyuubi could smell the faint smell of urine in the air. If Servius Snape feared Gaara, he'd be fucking terrified of Kyuubi. Yes, today was a good day for Kyuubi. Time skipped to lunch. When Harry thought back to his lesson beforehand, they had all been much more interesting. They'd also had charms and divination. During charms, Professor Flitwick spent most of the lesson cowering behind his desk from the glares three particular males. After they had gotten over their problems, the professor had tried to begin the lesson, but was interrupted multiple times by one four-tailed fox, Hanu had grown another one, and a blonde kid named Naruto. 2. They had spent the entire lesson giggling. Divination had also been strange, well stranger than normal. The girly-looking guy, named Niji, was amazed by the ideologies that the subject held. He and Professor Trelawney had begun a rapid conversation about fate. Harry had seen most of the boy's friends rolling their eyes and mimicking him. Naruto had stood up, declaring loudly that it was his fate to leave class early and had walked out, leaving his howling friends behind. But now they all sat at Gryffindor table, trying to subtly glance in the direction of the foreign students, who were muttering in Japanese. Hermione had vanished to the library, saying something about translation and names. Ron and Harry devoured their meal quickly before rising with the other students heading to class. They had DADA and didn't want to be late. The class were waiting outside, faces masked with curiosity. What's going on? Ron asked Hermione, who was already there. Professor Moody wanted to talk to the Konoha students, and to make matters more interesting, he casted a silencing charm on the room. She exclaimed brightly. Harry glanced at the door, he wished he could hear what was happening. The door suddenly opened, and a grinning Moody beckoned them inside. The students filed in, and Harry noticed that Naruto was wearing sunglasses. Harry found it strange. Why didn't Naruto want people to see his eyes? Harry was too in thought to notice the deadly looks on the Japanese students' faces. But Hermione did. Well, Moody said, clapping his hands together, I hope you're all ready for a surprise test. Harry could feel Hermione ooze with excitement. This test will be about Demons 3. Harry sighed. It wasn't as if he disliked the topic, it was just that he wasn't going to meet a demon at school or wherever he was going afterwards. Probably. Harry turned over the page and read the first question. One name the 9 Biju of Japan. Harry thought for a second before writing down the name. Kyuubi no Kitsune. On the other side of the classroom, the said demon was fuming. He could feel Naruto freaking out inside and now he wanted to kill something. The motherfucker is doing this on purpose. No shit. Thank you for that, Kit. He calmed down enough to feel the man's fake eye on him. He ducked down and started to write the answers, making sure that he got a few wrong. Naruto had gotten just over half on all the other surprise tests that teachers sprung on them, so why should this one be any different? The next question, however, made Kurama killing intention, and that's what it's called, right? 13. What is a Jinchuriki? Oh yes, Mad Eye Moody was going to die this year. Time skip, again, to choosing of the champions. The students sat in rows, the Hogwarts at their house tables, and the foreign students sitting in quaint little rows by the side. Welcome, I believe the Goblet is ready to make its decision, Dumbledore said, smiling at all the people assembled. First, Bobatons. The candles faded and the goblet glowed red. In a flurry of red sparks, the red glowing flame provided the name on the paper. Dumbledore smiled as he read out, Fleur Delacour. The hall erupted into cheering, mostly from boys, as Fleur made her way to the front, smiling gracefully. Congratulations, he said, directing her to a door at the side. Now, Durmstrang. Again, the mysterious red flame emerged, ejecting the paper into the air. Dumbledore caught it between his finger and thumb. Victor Krum. He declared loudly. The roar of applause sounded up again, mostly by Quidditch fans this time. Ron looked extremely pleased. We'll do Hogwarts now. A piece of paper exploded into the air. Cedric Diggory. There was a polite applause, but most of the more violent clapping was from the girls, more specifically, Cho Chang. Before Dumbledore could say any more, the Goblet decided to throw another piece of paper at him. Why Harry Potter? Dumbledore said, curiously. Then realization dawned on him, Harry Potter. The hushed silence fell across the hall, everyone was staring as Harry slowly made his way to the front. Unlike the other three, no one looked happy that he'd won, in fact most people were looking at him in dislike. Harry looked around, feeling most eyes follow him. He looked at the Konoha students, but was slightly disappointed to see that they weren't paying attention. At all. Shikamaru was asleep on Choji, who in turn was gauging himself on chips. Kiba and Hinata were playing with Akamaru, whilst Niji was comparing knives with Bun Girl. What was her name again? Oh, right. 10-10. Wait, knives? Ino and Sakura were having a small argument whilst brushing their hair and Sasuke was staring calmly out the window. Naruto and the panda, Gaara, were playing with what Harry realized was sand. But before he could see what the others were doing, he'd arrived at the front. Dumbledore looked down at him, confusion in his eyes. "This way, please Harry," he said, gesturing to the door on his right. "Next is Konoha," Dumbledore declared loudly, breaking the tension. The said school snapped all their heads to the front simultaneously, scaring the students. "We all know who that's going to be," Hermione muttered. "Well, this is odd," Dumbledore said. He read out the name. "Hey Kyuubi," Naruto stuttered. "Me? Will Kyuubi please come out?" Dumbledore said, looking around in concern. "Kurama. Do you want to, or should I say no?" "Say no." Naruto nodded to himself, gaining confused looks. Kyuubi says no." "How can Kyuubi say no when he isn't even here?" a boy called from the crowd. Naruto started to panic on the inside, the other shinobi noticing this. Tsunade cleared her throat. "Where we come from, brothers have a special bond, allowing them to communicate to each other telepathically. Kyuubi is ill right now." The Konoha shinobi breathed sighs of relief, thank the heavenly Raymond that Bachan can't think of an excuse. "Harry has to participate," Dumbledore began slowly, meaning that when Kyuubi is better, he will have to join. "Shit. Let's hope they're all too stupid to realize that I'm named after a demon." "Kyuubi is named after a demon," Hermione whispered to Ron. "What?" Ron replied dumbly. Hermione huffed. "Kyuubi no Kitsune, the nine-tailed fox no. Honestly Ronald, didn't you take notes in DADA?" Ron looked sheepish. Hey, I was just going to copy yours." Hermione glared at him before continuing, "Anyway. How are Kyuubi and Naruto related if they have different last names? Also I was in the hospital wing the other day, there were no foreigners in there." Just as she finished, the goblet lit up again. Dumbledore extracted the paper from it. "Naruto Uzumaki." Naruto sighed in relief. "Now this will be less awkward once I figure out how to break the seal." The blonde stood up and bounded up to the front. Before he walked through the door, he yelled, "Me and my bro will beat you all. Dadabeo." He slammed the door with a loud bang. Inside the room, the four other champions were gathered around the fireplace. The teachers around them were eyeing Harry with suspicion and distrust. Naruto just shrugged. "Since you have to participate, I'll get to releasing the seal then," Naruto said in his mind. "Good luck with that," the Kyuubi grunted back. Naruto snickered, ignoring the looks that he was given. "Naruto, where, may I ask, is your brother?" Dumbledore asked. "Ma. He's at the dormitory somewhere. I think. Maybe, but don't worry. He's very excited," Naruto said, grinning fiercely. "Right. Hold up." Cedric said loudly, "There are only meant to be 4 champions, but the way you're talking makes it sound like there are 6. "Wow, you're smart," Naruto said sarcastically. They all glared at him. "What?" Dumbledore turned back to Cedric, "You are correct, there are 6 champions." Naruto stood behind him nodding his head, but it wasn't to what Dumbledore was saying. "I'm guessing those dragons have something to do with the tournament. I hope something exciting takes place, like we have to fight the giant squid. That'll be cool." "That does sound fun. That is why I suggested it. Don't get smart on me now, Kit." "Shut up." "No. You shut up. Stupid fox." Bumbling blonde. "Smelly old I think we should pay attention to what we're being told." "Clever idea." "Shut up. Epper for the first task, even though you don't know what it is," Dumbledore said. "Okay, thanks old man, love you all," Naruto said cheerfully, leaving extremely quickly. The teachers exchanged glances. Albus, Minerva spoke up, "We only expected 4 champions so," she fell into a whisper so the curious students couldn't hear, "we don't have enough, you know what." "Ah. Minerva, do not worry, I have sorted it out," Albus replied cheerfully as the remaining champions, still glancing curiously at them, left. "Albus," Tsunade said, climbing through the window, it wasn't her office so it was fine. The blonde lady held a fresh bottle of beer in her hand, she was trying a new alcohol type. "Lady Tsunade, what do I owe the pleasure?" Albus smiled. Tsunade felt her eyebrow twitch, "You do know that I'm staying here right, meaning that you don't owe me any pleasure." Jiraiya snickered before Tsunade hit him on the head, "Not like that." Shizune sighed as she climbed through the window. Tun the pig climbed in after her. "Because yes, pigs can climb." "I don't know what pigs you're talking about." "Anyway," Tsunade said, still glaring at the pervert, "I heard you don't have enough dragons." "Well." Servia said, "Albus said he has taken care of it." Said professor coughed awkwardly, "Well, you see, I lied." Tsunade rolled her eyes, "Obviously, we can help, by the way." "How?" She winked, "You'll see." Naruto stood in the forest, books spread around him. He dipped his pen in a pot of ink and started drawing runes in a circle around him. Hey, fire. Unseal. That superscript 2 blood. The, bond. A release. He sat down in the center, placing his hands on the kanji for unseal and release. He started channeling chakra into it. The seals glowed blue before fading into an orangy red. Naruto then lifted one of hands, bit the middle finger, and pressed it into the blood kanji. He did the same for the hand, pressing it to the bond kanji. The red energy latched onto his hand. Naruto felt a scream rip from inside him. It was burning the flesh off his hands. The only thing keeping him pressing his fingers to the kanji was the Kyuubi chanting in the back of his mind. The fox continuously chanted, "I'll be free, then everything will be okay. Kid." The energy rose up his arm, ripping flesh off along the way. It reached his shoulder before traveling down his torso. Blood was running down his body in torrents. Naruto's eyes flickered from red to blue and then, rather strangely, they turned black. Kurama had to pump his chakra into the blonde to keep him from collapsing. Finally, the energy reached his seal. This better work, was his last thought before the world went black. A lot of blood. Naruto blinked once. Up it dove. His eyebrow twitched. Lion idiot would do that. Naruto felt his lips pull back into a snarl. Don't talk bad about my kid. Naruto opened his eyes and smiled, so it worked. Naruto. Everyone yelled very loudly. Kill me now. The blonde whimpered. Not so fast, kid. Kyuubi. The nine-tailed fox was standing in the room in his human form. He had red hair, red like blood, along with red eyes. He also had whiskers on his cheeks, thicker than Naruto's but all in all, the same. He wore similar clothes to Naruto, but instead of orange it was a rich red. It worked. Yay. No, we can take over the AO. Naruto yelped as Tsunade hit him over the head. I haven't finished. She said crossly. Ian. It's odd, she started, Kyuubi has been released, but you still have his healing factors. Right, that's because I still have 7 of his tails sealed inside of me, Naruto supplied, helpfully. Kurama snorted. Naruto grinned. Everyone else sweat dropped. I should be going now, let's go Kyuubi. Naruto cheered, bouncing out of bed and grabbing his new brother by the wrist. By the way. Tsunade yelled after them, if anybody asks. Kyuubi is your twin, okay. Well, looks like you're going from being a partner in crime to my twin brother. Naruto laughed as he dragged Kurama down the corridor. Walk it. Let go. No. Okay. Just stop dragging. No. Stop. No. What was that? Harry asked Hermione, who were down the next corridor in deep conversation, which was interrupted by the sentences. They glanced at Ron, who was walking with Seamus and Dean and who was pointedly ignoring them. Wait. No. Naruto. A voice yelled. Everybody's head snapped up in time to see Naruto Uzumaki and a boy they had never seen before barrel past. Ma. Kaiwu-chan. You're scaring them. Me? Scary. PFFT. You're joking. The redhead snorted. Naruto snickered. I'm usually a joker. The redhead glared at him. Anyway, he said stiffly, where are we going? Oh. I made you mad. Don't worry, we're just going to potions. Can I kill Professor Snake? The Hogwarts student sweat dropped, Professor Snake. Wahahaha. Professor Snake. Wait till I tell him that. Tell him I said that and I'll kill you. The students watched as Naruto collapsed into his brother's arms, crying fake tears. You wouldn't do that. Oh, dear brother of mine, how the woes of the past have come to haunt us. I didn't know you knew Shakespeare. Kyuubi exclaimed. What Shakespeare? Alistair Moody was in a bad mood. The blonde kid was hiding something, he could feel it. I mean, who has a brother named after a dangerous demon? Well, apparently, it's Naruto Uzumaki. Moody huffed. He had put all 9 of the demons in the goblet in hope that one of them was chosen. He had watched a blonde child's reaction and his suspicions were confirmed. That kid knew something else. That kid was something else. Moody clenched his fists together. He growled as he turned the corner. Wow. You're like a dog who had his bones stolen. Naruto. You can't just say that. Wah. Kyuubi. You agree to right? Course I agree, but that doesn't mean you can say that out loud. Wow, didn't know you had morals. Shut up. Ah, Professor. Naruto said cheerfully to Moody, this is my brother, Kyuubi. He gestured to the boy next to him. So, he actually has a brother. Interesting. Ah. You must be Kyuubi. I've heard so much about you. Moody exclaimed. The 2 boys looked at him in confusion. I haven't told you anything about him. The blonde exclaimed. Lady Tsunade told me. Yeah, that's why I know stuff. Moody started to sweat. Right, well, me and my twin best be going. Bye. Moody glared at the retreating twins' backs, vowing that he will find out what they are hiding. And use it. Even if it's the last thing he will do. Harry was face down in his history of magic textbook, having fallen asleep during his homework. He suddenly jerked awake as the common room door flew open and the Uzumaki twins walked in. And this? Naruto gestured towards Harry, is the famous Harry Potter. Ayubi's eyes suddenly had hearts in them and he glided. Yes, you heard correctly, glided. Over to Harry. He reached out and touched his hand. He let a manly squeal before running over to Naruto and whispering frantically in his ear. Great, Harry thought, Naruto's brother is a fanboy. Ayubi came back, this time asking for an autograph. Harry signed it before turning around to blankly stare at his homework again. He heard the portrait swing open again and turned around to see Ron. The Weasley walked over to the giggling redhead and his brother, muttering something to them before walking off to the dormitory. I don't know what you did, Naruto said to Harry, but he sure is pissed. Then they were gone. Harry was alone once again. I must say, dear Kurama, your acting skills are on point. Naruto exclaimed as he and the demon walked down an empty corridor. Kurama ignored him, frowning, instead, at the autograph in his hand. What's wrong? Naruto asked. Harry's signature is different to the one that was written in the goblet. So? Maybe he was rushing or someth. That's not what I mean, idiot. What I mean is that Harry didn't put his name in the goblet and whoever did knows about us. About me. Naruto frowned. I'm sure it's just a coincidence. I'm telling you. It isn't. My name was written in the same way. You're smarter than your brother, you are. The both turned around, coming face to face with Moody. I couldn't sense him, Kyuubi thought. Oh, are you calling me stupid? You are, aren't you? Asshole, the blonde Jinchuriki huffed. Ignoring him, Kyuubi turned to Moody, what do you mean? Well, you figured out that Harry didn't put his name in the goblet and that same person put yours in as well. Moody smirked. The two foxes glanced at each other before nodding. So, it was you. They said, simultaneously. Moody reeled back in shock. He hadn't been expecting them to find out that quickly. The two boys looked at each other again before facing him with identical smirks. We would kill you now. Naruto said. But we want to play some more. Kyuubi finished. In a puff of white smoke, the two boys had vanished, leaving a slightly scared Moody. It was the day of the first task. Naruto and Kyuubi had been training by actually just fighting the dragons in the forest. It had been fun at first, especially when Hanu joined in and they all set half the forest on fire. That had resulted in a very angry drunk Tsunade. But now they stood in the tent, waiting for the task to begin. Unlike the two Konoha champions, the other four were freaking out. It was most likely because this was the first big thing they had to face, unless you count the Basilisk, Dementors and the Dark Lord 3 times. This guy with a weird bowler hat, in Naruto's opinion, came in with a bag. Now, for the first task, I will need you each to put your hand in this bag and pull out something. The bowler man said, right. Ladies first. Nah. Kaiwu-chan, there were only 4 dragons. Now I'm sure Tsunade-sama will figure something out. You know, since you're my brother, you can call her Tsunade-chan, right? But I don't want get a table thrown at me. The demon whined. Come on. It's fun. Naruto said, poking Kyuubi continuously. What's up, brats? A drunk Tsunade cried, coming in. Naruto nudged Kyuubi. Ahaya Tsunade-chan. Kyuubi flinched back as he saw a tick mark appear on the lady's forehead. He hid behind Naruto when her eyebrow twitched. The table appeared beside her and she flung it at the twins. Kyuubi dived in one direction and Naruto in the other. The table hit Dumbledore just as he entered the tent. Wow. Well, we're screwed. Shut up. Hey, look. He's bleeding. Haha. Oh dear. His blood got all over my clothes. Wow. Didn't know you cared about looks, Kaiwu-chan. Shut up, Blondie. Professor. Harry yelled, shoving past the giggling twins, are you okay? Ah. Dumbledore said, slowly getting to his feet, nothing like a good knock on the head to wake you up. Unless it results in your brains being splattered everywhere, Naruto pointed out. Peter Pettigrew stood in the library in Scotland. He was in the mythological creature section, researching Japanese demons. Find what you're looking for? The librarian asked. No, he said, not yet. Oh. Well, give me a call if you need any help. She exclaimed happily. Yes, I will. Thank you. He was alone once again. His eyes scanned the pages he was reading, looking for the nine-tailed fox aka Kyuubi. Aha! He exclaimed quietly, finger on the page. Kyuubi no Kitsune, also known as the nine-tailed fox, was said to be sealed inside of a red-haired shinobi family. The family name is unknown as the shinobi refused to give details for this. However, the only known fact about the family is that the last known descendant resides in the village hidden in the leaves, also known as Konoha. No one knows who his container is now, but their anger and pain can weaken the seal, causing a small amount of Kyuubi's magic to leak out. Interesting. The 6 champions had pulled something out of the bag. 4 out of the 6 had pulled out dragons. The other two had pulled out Tsunade and Jiraiya. Why do I have to fight Tsunade-chan? Naruto wailed. Well, I have to fight Jiraiya, and I know that guy hates me. Kyuubi snapped back. Oh, don't cry. I'm not crying. I just have something in my eye. Sure. Shut up. Excuse me, the bowler hat, yes, that's his name now, said, I would like to explain the challenge. The champions stood up, lining up, eyes training the sweating man carefully. Oh, will you have to try to get past your partner? Anyway, to complete the task you must collect a golden egg, which the dragons and drunk ladies are guarding. The twins raised their eyebrows at him before turning back to their own conversation. Kyuubi, Jiraiya is my sensei, so please don't kill him, Naruto whispered. I don't have to, all I need to do is get the egg as quickly as possible, knowing me, I could probably do it without even laying a finger on him, Kyuubi murmured back. You only have 2 tails though. I know that. The other champions had left to fight the dragons, leaving Kyuubi, Naruto and Harry alone. So, Harry, are you scared? Naruto asked. Harry looked at him, of course not. He's Harry Potter. Wizard who conquered death. Kyuubi said, keeping up his act. Right, Harry said, putting on a fake smile. Harry Potter? The bowler man called. Harry waved awkwardly at the twins before leaving the tent. I'm skip cause no one cares about Harry. And Harry Potter has collected the egg. I don't get what's great about him, Naruto huffed, pinning a butterfly down by its wings. I know right, we've died more times than him, Kyuubi agreed, ripping the legs off. Naruto sighed as he ripped of the wings. Such a petty creature, shame it couldn't defend itself. Next, Naruto Uzumaki. Well, got to go. Have fun. Naruto hopped up, dusted his clothes off and walked out into the arena. Breathe in, breathe out. Breathe in, breathe out. There, I'm calmer now. Let's just hope Bachan isn't angry. Naruto looked up and saw the masses of students and spectators lined up in rows along the edge of the arena. He spotted the Konoha shinobi, along with the Sand sibling sitting near the judges' panel, waving at him. He raised his hand in greeting and was met with roars of praise from the crowd. He was not expecting that. He surveyed the terrain of the arena. He saw a large nest-shaped object in the center, the platform it was on was raised a bit. In the center of said nest lay 5 or 6 eggs, all golden in color. However, one glinted in the sunlight, directly in the center surrounded by all other eggs. That was the one he needed. He quickly formed the hand signs for the clones, sending one out ahead. As soon as the clone stepped into sight of the nest, a rock came flying towards him. The clone let a scream before diving to the side. Naruto's sweat dropped, was that what he sounded like? As the clone was getting rocks launched at it, Naruto created a few more, sending them around the sides. The flying rocks increased in speed and direction, the clones having to stop trying to move forward and just dodge. Naruto hinged himself into a beetle before crawling out from behind the rock. But the boulders and stones were piling up fast and Beetle Naruto couldn't fit through the gaps. He undid the hinge, forming a Rasengan in his hand. He thrusted his hand forward, blasting a hole in the boulders. But before he could do anything else, a fist came out of nowhere, punching him into the wall. Naruto thudded hard against the stone, feeling the bruises from impact already show up. He stood up and ran, not wanting to get punched like that again. Out of the corner of his eye, Naruto spotted Tsunade standing impassively on one side of the nest. He hinged into a beetle, releasing another clone as he did so, using the clone as a distraction. He scuttled towards the nest, but just before the platform the hinge was released. Naruto looked around in confusion before he saw what had happened. He had tripped of a chakra line that led to a paper seal. This seal released all jutsus, leaving the shinobi defenseless when it came to being hidden. 1. Warning bells started to go off and Naruto dove to the side. Before he hit the ground, he was grabbed by the collar and flung backwards. Take that, Gaki. Ouch, Bachan. Naruto wailed. He stood up, wincing once again. Even though he was being healed by Kyuubi's chakra, the pain from the initial blow was still there. He decided to go with the best tactic anyone could muster. Attack and take it from there. He jumped up and barreled forward, creating around 50 clones along the way. Half of the clones ran towards Tsunade, whilst the other half ran towards the nest. Tsunade smirked. Instead of punching each clone individually, she slammed her fist into the ground, causing the clones to fly up into the air and poof as they hit the ground again. Only one Naruto remained, he was sprinting towards the nest at full speed. He had been seemingly unaffected by Tsunade's vast power. Tsunade's eyes widened and she began to sprint across the clearing as fast as she could. But she was too late. Naruto had reached the top of the nest and picked up the golden egg. I win. He yelled loudly, followed by a thunderous applause. Hermione and Ron were sitting in the crowd just as they saw Harry fly back down and collect his egg. Do you forgive him now? Hermione asked, eyes still fixed on Harry. From her peripheral vision, she saw Ron flush scarlet before muttering a small yes. She smiled to herself as she watched Harry get ushered into the infirmary. Next, Naruto Uzumaki. Ron nudged her sides and pointed towards the nest. Standing next to it was the blonde headmistress of Konoha. Apparently, they aren't having enough dragons for the champions, so they had to go with a compromise. Hagrid said. Hagrid was sitting next to them in the stands. The Konoha students sat a little further away, muttering between themselves in Japanese. The flash of blonde made her turn away. Naruto had arrived. He raised his hand greeting, presumably towards the Konoha wizards, who waved back. But the simple gesture had the whole crowd cheering, and from the look on his face, Hermione believed he might not have had expected that. She watched as he surveyed the arena, stopping as he faced the nest. He suddenly ducked behind a rock, did something with his hands, and formed a replica of himself. The replica ran out, and the crowd watched in awe as Tsunade threw boulders at it. Hermione focused on Naruto, watching as he formed more replicas, who spread out and then disappeared himself. She watched as he reappeared in front of the huge mound of boulders and blasted them away with a glowing blue ball. She watched as Tsunade punched him. Harry was watching Naruto's fight from the window. He hated how the blonde seemed to be stronger than him, but was an idiot at the same time. He narrowed his eyes as the headmistress sent him flying into the wall for the first time. He hated the way that the blonde wizard just bounced back like nothing happened. He watched as Naruto disappeared for a few minutes before reappearing again just before the nest. Harry hated that Naruto could do that. Which meant he let out a small chuckle as Naruto was hit again. That moment was the moment that Harry realized. Something was wrong with him. Kyuubi sat in the tent, his excitement growing every few minutes. Suddenly, the telltale sound of the captured egg erupted through the arena. Kurama stood up, cracking his muscles and bouncing on the balls of his feet. Next. Kyuubi no Kitsune. Kurama walked out of the tent and instead of focusing on the crowd, his eyes locked onto the nest. That was what he was aiming for. Without hesitating he started to sprint towards the nest. Holy fuck. Is that a frog? No. I'm a toad, you asshole. The toad said. It was quite a big toad, sitting right in Kyuubi's path. Right mind letting me pass? Kyuubi asked. Haha. No. The toad laughed. Kurama felt tick mark appear. If you don't let me pass, things are going to get messy. Bring it on, oh great and powerful demon. The toad mocked. Kurama snarled and launched himself at the toad, forgetting about his mission for a bit. But, just before he could punch the toad into oblivion, he was hit by a Rasengan in the stomach. He flew into the wall, creating another crater. He got up, snarling. He bared his fangs and pushed off the wall. He flew at Jiraiya and punched him in the jaw. It didn't hit as hard as he'd expected, but still distracted the white-haired Sannin. Kurama started towards the path to the nest again, but was stopped, again, by another toad. This one was a lot bigger than the first and was coated in a poisonous layer. Kyuubi growled. The toad smirked, bring it on, fox boy. Kyuubi allowed some of his chakra to coat his body, forming a protective layer. He threw a punch at the toad, meeting his mark and sending the toad flying. But, as he looked at his fist, his eyes widened in horror at the telltale signs of poison that had seemingly managed to get past his chakra. He didn't dwell on it. The sooner he got the egg, the sooner he would get out and healed. Ignoring the pain in his hand, he ran forward again, using his ears to dodge attacks. Jiraiya threw some heavy punches and threw kunai hard. Kurama continued to run, and by the time the nest was reached, he had multiple cuts that were already healing. He clambered onto the nest and reached for the egg. I wouldn't do that, I wouldn't. Kurama snapped his head to the side and saw Hanu, Naruto's fox. Why? Fake. I see. Hanu gestured with his tail at one egg opposite Kyuubi. That one. Kyuubi picked it up and the genjutsu he was under vanished. Kurama stood up, cradling the egg in his arms, a grin on his face. Thanks. Naruto sat in the hospital, bored out of his mind. The other 4 champions were ignoring him, especially Harry. He didn't know why. The tent flap opened and weary Kyuubi stumbled in. Naruto grinned, bouncing from his bed. How'd it go? Fine. You look tired. Poison. I see, but at last we both made it fine and collected our eggs. Yeah. Want Sakura to heal you? Nah. I'm fine, just need time. Is your? Yes. Okay. The champions stayed in the tent until the nurses deemed them healthy enough to leave. Naruto and Kyuubi were the first out and instead of going to the portrait, they headed towards the forest. Once in the forest, they lay down under the canopy, eggs resting above their heads. Are you okay, Kurama? Naruto asked. Yeah. No, you are not. Tell me what's wrong. I don't know, I just have this feeling that someone is going to come back but he won't cause problems for us. So? I don't understand. I'm a demon, I shouldn't be having these feelings. What feelings? Guilt. Naruto stared at him, wah. I feel guilty and I don't know why. Kurama sighed. Naruto stared up at the clouds. What are the eggs for? The blonde suddenly asked. I don't actually know. You put them in the water, you do. Oh okay, thanks. Wait. Who said that? Naruto yelled. Kyuubi pointed at the five-tailed fox sitting near Naruto's head. He did. Oh. Okay so, we put them in the water. Hanu nodded, then you open and listen, you do. Well then, to the lake. Naruto grabbed Kyuubi, who in turn grabbed the eggs and barreled towards the lake. How do you know this, Hanu? I listen to conversations, I do. Oh, so you eavesdropped. They reached the lake, stripping down to their underwear. Naruto jumped into the lake, followed more slowly by Kurama. Together, they sat in the shallows and opened the egg. The egg glowed, and the two boys stuck their heads in. Seek us where our voices sound. We cannot sing above the ground. And while you're searching, ponder this. We've taken what you'll sorely miss. An hour long you'll have to look. And to recover what we took. But past an hour the prospect's black. Too late, it's gone, it won't come back. Gasping for breath, the boys emerged. What? Something I'll miss. They're taking my ramen. I don't think they mean like that. They take people, they do. Oh. Mermaids. Kurama yelled suddenly. Naruto looked at him in confusion. Mermaids? Yes. Mermaids. Cool. It was almost time for the Yule Ball, and everybody was panicking over who to take. Hey, Naruto. I was wondering if you would turn into a girl and go with me? Kiba asked. Me? Go with you? No chance, dog breath. Please. Why don't you go with Hinata? I would, but I'm too scared to ask her, Kiba mumbled. Naruto laughed. They were sitting in their room, the only ones there as the others had gone to spar in the woods. Kyuubi had wandered off somewhere, most likely trying to figure out how Hanu can talk. Kiba had been begging for over 5 minutes, but Naruto still refused. He claimed that he was saving himself. Naruto had fangirls. Surprised. So was Sasuke. The brooding Uchiha was extremely happy that someone had taken the fangirls for him. But he was also jealous. Of course who? He wasn't sure yet. Shikamaru was going with Temari. She was the one who had asked as soon as the Yule Ball was announced. Shikamaru had called it troublesome and agreed. Lee had spent the past few days asking Sakura to go with him. She answered no repeatedly, but Naruto could see her crumbling. Naruto himself didn't want to go, but Tsunade told him, actually she had yelled, that the champions have to go. He had set half the forest on fire after that. Ara wasn't going. No one could change his mind. That was the end of that argument. The blonde Jinchuriki could sense something different about Harry. He felt like the scarred wizard was suspicious of him. I mean, he's not a suspicious character, right? Can you ask her? Kiba begged. What? For you? No chance. I hate you. Love you too. Oh, shut up. Boy. Naruto. Kyuubi came in, can I talk to you? Naruto nodded, bouncing out of his seat. He ran after the Biju, leaving Kiba alone. The dog ninja sighed, rubbing his face. He knew Naruto was right. He left to find Hinata. Naruto and Kyuubi once again stood by the lake. What's your plan? Kurama asked. I dunno really, I'll probably just wing it. Chakra. Naruto looked at him, confused. Kurama sighed and elaborated, we can code ourselves in chakra. Oh, that's a good idea. Naruto agreed, how are you so smart? Kurama glared at him, probably because I think. That's rude. I know. Kiba was scared. He tapped his fingers together in front of a certain Hyuga. Hinata. Nope. It was Niji. I can't attack a Hinata. Repeat. Niji said coldly. I should fine, can I take Hinata to the dance? Niji stared blankly at him for a moment or two. Kiba started to sweat from the anticipation. Niji finally sighed. Okay. He grudgingly agreed, but if you hurt her in any way, I will personally see to it that you are tortured and killed. Right? Kiba gave Niji a small smile before bounding off to find Hinata. He was feeling a bit dizzy and was starting to think that he should just continue pestering Naruto. He sighed. There was no going back now. He stumbled over a passing student's robes. Ah. Fuck. Hey Kiba-kun. Kiba looked up to see Hinata leaning over him, worry etched on her face. He grinned sheepishly at her as he stood up. Hey Hinata, Kiba mumbled. Hinata blushed, Kiba-kun, Niji said you were looking for me, she stuttered. Kiba then also blushed, ah I was wondering if you will talk about with me. Hinata went a shade of red that was impossible. Unless, it was on her. I'm sure she said it very quietly. So quietly that Kiba could barely hear her. Sakura wasn't sure about who she wanted to take to the dance. She had thought about Sasuke, but she knew that he'd say no. He always did. Then there was Naruto. The blonde had gotten over her a little while after he had returned. He said he didn't have time for a relationship if he needed to get stronger. Everyone had began to notice some changes in Naruto. He had dyed the tips of his hair, he got along with Kyuubi, and he laughed at other people's expense. Everyone did that, but Naruto knew, more than anyone else, what it was like to be on the other side. Sakura rubbed her temple in exasperation. Then there was Lee. He was her last choice. If she couldn't find anyone else, she'd go with him. Then she would kill herself. It wasn't as though she disliked Lee, it was more the fact that every sentence she had ever heard him say contained the word youthful at some point. Maybe she should go with a Hogwarts student. The more she thought about it, the more that idea appealed. She turned the corner, walking head first into a boy with bright orange hair. The first thing she thought was, how come I didn't sense him? So sorry. The boy exclaimed, rather loudly. He sounded like a ginger Naruto. It's fine, Sakura replied. You sure? Positive. I'm Fred Weasley, by the way, the boy, now named Fred, supplied. Sakura Haruno, the pink-haired shinobi, answered back. So? So what? Sakura asked, confused. Are you going with anyone to the ball? Are you asking me? Sakura said, surprised. Sure. Why not? I mean, you seem pretty nice, and your hottie trailed off. We barely know each other. We can get to know each other. At the dance. Sakura shrugged. Okay. He wasn't going to hurt her, anyway. Right? Naruto trudged back to the dormitory, mind overloaded. Kurama thought way too much about these things. He also needed to find a date to the dance. Old Aunt Tsunade never said it needed to be a girl, Naruto thought suddenly. He smirked as he formulated a plan in his mind. He wasn't gay, but that didn't matter. He didn't want to go with a girl unless she was his soulmate. He was weird like that. I'm pretty sure Sasuke is gay. I mean, come on, it's in his name, Naruto thought. His plan was perfect. He bounded through the portrait after muttering, holy shit, to the fox. Sasuke was the only person in the room at that moment. Naruto grinned to himself. Hey Sasuke. He called. What? The Uchiha yelled back. Have anyone to take to the ball? Naruto asked innocently. What's it to you? He replied gruffly. I see, Naruto nodded to himself, you don't, do you? The Uchiha glared at him, what about you? He asked icily. I don't either. Naruto said cheerfully. Chen. Great language team. Chen. Anyway, go with me. What? Oh. With. Me. Team. You know you want to. I do not. Sure. Ugh, fine, I'll go with you. Strictly as friends, though. Aw. Thanks, Sasu-chan. Don't call me that, dope. You know you love it. Chen. Wow. Not denying it, huh? Chen. Denial is the hidden creature. You do well to remember that. With that, he was gone, leaving a stunned Sasuke behind. If Naruto had managed to get a date, that was nothing short of a miracle. But for Kyuubi no Kitsune, he needed a miracle and a half. The red-haired demon was struggling to socialize with anyone other than Naruto, and he couldn't go with him. They were meant to be related after all. Also, he wasn't gay. Kurama rubbed his hands over his face, looking into the mirror. Suddenly he had an idea. That Kit's ninja centerfold might come in handy right about now, he thought to himself. He smirked. This was why he didn't hate the blonde ramen-loving idiot. He tramped downstairs to find a stunned Uchiha sitting on the couch. What's wrong with you, bastard? Sasuke slowly turned to face him, face still alive with a stunned expression. Naruto asked me to the ball. He said quietly. And? He's weird. You've only just realized. Chen. Kyuubi sighed again. With one last look at the raven, he opened the portrait and stepped outside. He turned to face the red fox. Which way did Naruto go? That way. The other replied, helpfully. She gestured with her tail down the corridor, he went to find Hanu. The fox demon thanked the portrait before running off to find his container. He found said container sitting near the edge of the forest. The blonde was stroking Hanu whilst staring off into the distance. Naruto. Kyuubi called. Naruto turned his head, brightening up slightly as he saw Kyuubi. Yo Kyubs. What's up? I need a date for the ball. Sorry, I'm going with Sasuke and I don't do incest. Kurama rolled his eyes, that isn't what I meant. Naruto looked confused, what did you mean? I was wondering if you'd turn a clone into a girl for me. You sure you don't want it to be a boy? Kyuubi felt his eyebrow twitch, positive. Why can't you do it? The blonde asked, after creating a clone. Because I am a demon and I have no use for your measly jutsus. Even though one set you free. One also trapped me. Oh yeah? Kyuubi face palmed. The night of the Yule Ball had arrived. Shinobi ran around the dormitories hiding weapons and tidying clothes and hair. Except from Gaara. The red-headed male still refused to attend the event, instead, locking himself in his room. Hiba was panicking, rushing between the mirror and Akamura, trying to make sure both had perfect hair. However, Hinata wasn't much better. The poor girl kept applying then removing and then reapplying makeup, trying to make sure it was perfect. Ino was trying to convince Choji to put the packet of potato chips down so she could sort out his tie. He complied, though reluctant. In fact, the only calm person seemed to be Kyuubi, but that was because Naruto had perfected the clone yesterday. So, he didn't need to panic. Naruto, on the other hand, had his mind racing at 100 miles per hour. He couldn't decide if he wanted to wear makeup or just put on his suit, no dress robes for him. He ran around his room, arguing with Hanu about wearing orange. According to the fox, that wasn't an appropriate color for a suit. Naruto disagreed wholeheartedly. He ran downstairs, almost tripping over Shikamaru who was grumbling to Temari about troublesome women. She slapped him. Naruto waved cheerily to them before running off to find Kurama. Kurama was in the owlery, watching Cho-Chang from the corner of his eye. He had come for some peace and quiet, but it was completely ruined by the stupid insane girl. He was sitting in the rafters, watching her. "Hey Kyubes." A voice whispered behind him. "Hi Naruto," he said, without turning around. He had sensed him coming. "What's happening down there?" Naruto asked curiously. "Harry Potter is coming up the stairs. He's probably going to ask her." 1. I feel sorry for him. She's already going with that Diggory dude. Joe suddenly vanished in a puff of smoke, being replaced with someone else. "Can I put him in a Jinjutsu?" Naruto smirked, "Sure." Barry walked up the stairs, he felt a strange tingling sensation up his spine, but ignored it. He was cold. He also didn't have a date. The ball was starting in a few hours, he tried to catch Cho, but she was always with her friends. Her scary friends. As he entered the owlery, he came face to face with none other than Cho-Chang. He blushed, hoping that she didn't notice. The said girl blushed back and stuttered out a quick hello. Barry cleared his throat before saying, "Ah hey, I was wondering if why you'd go to the ball with me." He stuttered out. Joe went bright red before squeaking out a yes. Barry grinned before the tingling sensation came back, but stronger. He closed his eyes before opening them again. He looked again at Cho. But, he was horrified to see that it was no longer Cho, but Pavarti Paddle. She was bright red and had a dazed look in her eyes. "I can't wait," she whispered. She left quickly, still red, leaving a horrified Harry behind. Only then did he notice faint laughter and a flash of red and yellow hair. He flew back to the common room. He flung open the portrait and ran over to Ron. He tried to avoid looking at the Paddle sisters. "Hey, man," Ron said, "you got a date yet?" Barry nodded. He couldn't say no, especially with the Yule Ball in a couple of hours. "I'm going with Padma." Ron said, grinning at him stupidly, "What about you?" Pavarti Harry muttered back. Ron giggled, "Now we're going with twins," he said laughing. A couple of hours later and the Yule Ball was ready to start. Harry was waiting patiently with Ron for their partners to arrive when something caught his eye. He spun round and was slightly annoyed to find the two twin champions of Konoha were dressed splendidly. Not only that, but their partners were beautiful as well. Now, Harry was not gay, but he could tell that the stoic man standing next to Naruto was the beau most girls were looking for, whilst Kyuubi's date wore a shimmering red dress, bringing out the intensity in her eyes. He had never seen such a beautiful girl and was annoyed that it was Kyuubi that got her. But before he could question it any further, their dates arrived. Naruto was excited. He could tell the Uchiha was uncomfortable and he was thriving off it. He smirked as a girl winked at Sokka, causing the raven to shudder. He grabbed Sasuke by the hand, dragging him, so they stood in front of Professor McGonagall. The stern woman smiled down at them through her glasses. She waited for the rest of the champions to line up before opening the door. They walked in, smiles on their faces, some not reaching their eyes, and waving at the assembled students. Sasuke's awkwardness levels increased the further they walked down, but he didn't let it show. The blonde next to him made up for both of them. Kyuubi and the Naruto clone were having a great time, the girl, name unknown, was smiling cutely at the crowds, whilst Kurama walked down with demonic grace. Both girls and boys sent the two pairs lustful glances, which the people of the said two pairs tactfully ignored. But now it was time for the dance. Yes, Sasuke and Naruto had to participate, much to the Uchiha's discomfort. "Come on, Sasuke-chan. Dance." Naruto said, the grim evident in his voice. "Hey-chan." Naruto snickered. Soon, more pairs and partners began to join in, leaving Naruto and Sasuke free to sneak out unnoticed. They were soon joined by Temari and Shikamaru, who was, of course, grumbling. Although, they were shocked to see that Lee had got a date. Someone called Luna Lovegood. Sakura and Fred danced and danced. They stopped dancing to get a drink. Mother, they danced some more. They did some talking and then some more dancing. Sakura was not regretting saying yes. But Pavarti was. Harry Potter was refusing to dance with her, seemingly more content with grumbling about his jealousy issues to the Weasley. They had dropped out straight away and she had been disappointed to find that not even her sister was having fun. She hated boys sometimes. Unlike Hinata. A usually shy Kunoichi was finally releasing some tension, dancing her heart out with Kiba. Her cousin was watching her from the corner of his eye, making sure she was okay, whilst dancing with Tenten. Kurama didn't know that a measly human event could actually be fun. He ignored the fact that he was basically just dancing with Naruto. The blonde that he was talking about was formulating a plan on how to kill Moody. The drink that the man had been drinking caused Naruto's stomach to coil in disgust, but the odd thing was, Moody's smell was also coming from a alarm trunk in his office. The blonde shinobi pushed those thoughts to the back of his mind, scanning the people of the room, driving off their discomfort. His head snapped to the side and he smirked when Harry's date left him and Naruto, being the nice guy he was, decided to steal Ron's date as well. He stalked up with a swagger, bowing down and kissing the girl's hand. "Will you grace me with a dance, my lady?" he asked charmingly. She blushed, glancing over at Ron, before shrugging and leaving with him. He could feel Harry and Ron's glares on his back, but he ignored them. Sasuke's were much worse anyway. He and the girl, he never got her name, danced for a few hours, but once people began to drift off, she said she needed a break. Naruto agreed, sitting by his friends who all smiled at him. He grinned back. "Have fun, guys?" he asked, grinning. "Tons." They all replied. Naruto found it creepy that they all replied the same, but he ignored it. The shinobi, caught up in their excitement, failed to see a set of eyes on them, lurking in the shadows. "Did you know, if you lose sleep over stupid things, it makes you more tired?" Naruto found that out quite quickly. Here he was, standing by the lake at midnight, with the nine-tailed demon explaining chakra control to Himation. "I know how to control chakra, Kurama," he bit out. "Sure, you do. And I don't want to kill everyone here." "I do." That was sarcasm. "Wait. The thing I said, or the thing you said?" "The thing I said, moron." "I'm not a moron." Kurama rubbed his temple in exasperation. Why, oh why was his container so stupid? "Come on Kyuubi," Naruto whined. "I'm tired." "That's it," the fox huffed, "fail for I care." He threw his hands up and stalked away. "I never fail. Believe it." As Kurama disappeared around the corner, the smile on Naruto's face fell. He hated it when people gave up on him, it made him feel worthless and stupid, something that he had grown up believing. When he had graduated the academy and joined Team 7, Naruto had been proud to find that he was gaining friends. But there had always been that feeling in the back of his mind that he would lose them when they found out. But Kyuubi was there. He wasn't what Naruto had expected a demon to be. He had yelled at him. Tried to scare him away, but then he helped. He taught Naruto what Kakashi didn't. Whilst Sasuke trained in the day with the Grey Jonin, Naruto spent his night studying under Kurama's guidance. Then Kurama showed him the pain in the world and the different effects. Naruto believed that if you are the one to inflict the pain, they would be easier to handle. It was. Even if Kurama was giving up on him, Naruto was determined to win the competition. Not for the village. Not for the demon. But for himself. Uzumaki Naruto. Barry stared out his window at the lake below. He looked at the silhouette that was facing towards the lake. He knew Naruto wasn't a bad guy, but there was something about him that put Harry on edge. Then there was his brother. The redhead, by himself, was fine. Pleasant even. They were fine when they were together, but Harry, after spending 14 years with Dudley, could sense that they enjoyed playing games. And not the fun kind. He watched in muffled awe as Naruto stepped on the lake. He may seem like an asshole, but Harry was jealous. He hadn't wanted to participate in the tournament, but now he really wanted to win. He sighed, getting back into his bed. That night, Harry dreamt. His footsteps echoed down the corridor. The hairs on the back of his neck pricked. Harry felt a shudder flow through his spine. This was different from the others' dreams he'd had. This time he was Harry, not Voldemort, but that didn't make it any better. The corridor he was in was never ending, seemingly going on forever. Harry turned another corner, walking down the exact same corridor, this time framed pictures were silhouetted on the walls. He turned the corner again, expecting something different. The hall was only lighter. The pictures clearer. Instead of heading down the corridor, Harry peered at the pictures on the wall. The first one seemed to be an older Naruto in a weird robe and a hat, with his arm wrapped around the waist of a grinning woman with red hair. He looked at the next picture. This one had a small Naruto, a full-on smile on his face. He was sitting on top of a scarred man's shoulders. The man had brown hair and a scar across his nose. Harry smiled. These pictures were cute. But the next one had him reeling back in shock. In the picture, Naruto and his twin were scowling at each other like they had had an argument. The worst part about it was that they both had blood-red eyes and were covered in the same color. Not highlighted in their hair like Naruto's was now, but all over themselves. Everywhere. Harry moved on to the next image, then the next and the next. They all had the exact same concept. The twins were in the frame, both covered in blood. They were grinning, scowling, laughing. But Kyuubi always wore the same clothing. Not wanting to look at them anymore, Harry sprinted down the corridor, ignoring the flashing images of Naruto and Team 7. Naruto and another redhead, Gaara. Naruto and Hinata. Harry was missing all the good parts of Naruto. These are Naruto's memories. Harry cried. The room went black and Harry found himself falling. Falling. He woke up with a start. He rolled over and opened the curtains draping over his bed. Bright sunlight hit him at full force. He groaned and rolled over. Hey, Harry. You awake? Chen. Hermione said last night that after breakfast we go to the library to help you with the second task. Chen. This is why you shouldn't procrastinate, man. Ron practically yelled. Harry sighed and clambered out of the bed. He stumbled as he got into his uniform and left to get breakfast. Ron trailed after him, spurting out ideas for the task. We could also try and find a spell that would turn you into a mermaid and. Ron. Yeah? Shut the hell up. You shouldn't talk to your friends like that, Harry, Hermione scolded, settling down opposite them. Sorry, he muttered, had another nightmare. You know who? Hermione asked sympathetically. Harry shook his head, I don't want to talk about it. Okay. Loud, obnoxious laughter rang out across the hall. Students' heads turned and stared at the laughing blonde. Naruto sat next to Lee and Kiba, seemingly avoiding his brother. Said redhead was next to the Uchiha, sneaking glances over to the blonde every once in a while. I wonder what happened between them? Hermione asked. The two boys just shrugged. I don't understand, Kurama whispered to Sasuke, why is he ignoring me? Chen. I'm being serious, Sasuke. The Uchiha stiffened, you called me by my name. Kyuubi huffed, that's not what we're talking about, Uchiha. Sasuke glared at the fox. Fine, you probably said something to the dope and now he's bottling up all his emotions. Be prepared for him to attack you randomly. The Biju looked thoughtful. What could I have said? Something insulting, probably. This is the longest conversation anyone other than Naruto has had with you, isn't it? Chen. So we're back here now, honestly, Uchiha. Naruto glanced over at their table again. Naruto. Kiba murmured, just talk to the goddamn thing. Kyuubi isn't a thing. Not. The. Point. Naruto pouted, don't wanna, he whined. Naruto, Sakura hissed, sliding in next to them, the second task is today, and the only person who can actually help you is Kyuubi, now suck it up and apologize. No. Why not? Because it was his fault. Naruto snapped, before standing up and storming out of the hall. Sakura, Kiba and Lee all glanced at each other. Lee had been oddly silent through the whole exchange, leaning more towards letting Naruto sort out his own problems. Footsteps echoed behind them, and the three ninja turned, coming face to face with Albus Dumbledore. May I borrow Miss Sakura please? They eyed the oink-haired girl uncertainly, before she nodded and stood up. Just as the headmaster and Pink Shinobi left the hall, the golden trio were heading to the library to do research for his task. Ma. Kaiu-chan, what is Katra? A small Naruto asked, book in his lap. I believe you mean chakra, Naru-chan. The nine-tailed fox curled up beside him replied steadily. Potato. The chibi blonde huffed. The fox huffed in a form of laughter. How was school, kid? Ah. Same as usual, bastards are biased and parents are cruel. The Kyuubi eyed the small boy with a sorrowful gaze, the child had been broken too early in life. It hurt Kyuubi's body, mind and soul. The child didn't deserve the cruelty the world threw at him. But Kyuubi was proud of his host. Why? Because Naruto faced the world head-on and grew from the experiences he had. He was also a brilliant actor, stupidity was one of the hardest masks to wear, Kurama believed. Hey kid. Yeah? My real name is Kurama. Hello Naruto. Professor Moody, Naruto said, inclining his head. Please, Alistair is fine. You do know, it's really creepy to call teachers by their actual name, Naruto muttered, backing away from the one-eyed man, but you're not a teacher are you? Naruto could practically feel the shock radiating off the man. How? Naruto grinned before spinning on his heel and walking past the man. I have my ways. Where's Ron and Hermione? Neville asked. Harry glared at him. His two best friends seemed to be missing, and now he was pissed. How should I know? He muttered. Ginny looked at him sympathetically, her red hair flowing in the wind, don't worry Harry. They'll be here soon. Thanks, Ginny, Harry said, smiling weakly. The ginger smiled in a slightly flirtatious way, but Harry knew Ginny didn't feel that way about him. Did she? I'm gonna win this. Dadabeo. Shut up, Blondie. Make me dog breath. The three Gryffindors turned and were slightly blinded by the excited energy radiating off of a hyperactive blonde. Who knew that excitement was a blinding yellow color? Definitely not Harry. They settled into the boats that were taking them to the stands. Naruto was chatting happily to Kiba and Lee, but still avoiding looking at his brother. Harry felt bad for the twin, it must hurt, knowing that he was doing it on purpose. Naruto's fox, Hanu, sat at his feet, glaring, because foxes could now glare at Kiba's dog. How can a dog be so big? Harry pondered, thoughtfully. Harry noticed that two of the Konoha students were missing, but he couldn't quite place his finger on their names. He shrugged, they didn't really matter. The only two people he actually would die for weren't even here. He sighed, glaring slightly at the blonde. How could he be so cheerful if he had done what Harry had seen in the pictures? The boats bumped the side of the stands lightly and rocked as Neville and Ginny got off. Harry followed quickly afterwards, eyes still scanning the crowd for his friends. Assholes still aren't here, he sighed, grouchily. The gillyweed in his hand started to slip through his fingers, but Harry kept a tight grip on it. He watched as Cedric Diggory stalked past him, Cho following loyally behind. Victor Crumb came next, arrogant smirk present on his face, the girls all goggled at him with blushing faces. Next, there was Fleur Delacour, the girl who made boys understand what rapists went through. It was him, Harry Potter. People were beginning to get used to the idea of him being in the tournament, but most still wanted the other actual champions to win. Following close behind him, radiating wave after wave of excitement, was Naruto Uzumaki. The blonde was literally bouncing along, sometimes it looked like his feet missed the ground completely. Harry was surprised that he hadn't fallen over yet. Next was Uzumaki's twin, Kyuubi. The red-haired half had a scowl present on his face. His arms were crossed over his chest, and he glared at anyone who so much as glanced at him. They were total opposites. The six champions stood by the edge of the lake. Dumbledore was saying something, but it fell on a demon and shinobi's deaf ears. Naruto. Kurama said quietly. The blonde turned his head away from the fox, a frown settling on his features. What? I'm sorry for what I said. You don't even know what you said, do you? Kyuubi. Naruto hissed nastily, just as the task started. Kurama looked at him with a sorrowful gaze as they both stepped out onto the water. I know you have trust issues. His mind started, and I'm sorry. He turned away, missing the small smile that slipped onto the Jinchuriki's face before they ran. The whiskered child sat at the back of the classroom. Blank, dull eyes staring lifelessly ahead of him. He had no friends. Why? Because he was a container. He was worthless and stupid, his only purpose in life was to keep a so-called dangerous demon at bay. But, people were wrong. The demon was nasty. He wasn't cruel. He was the only family that 10-year-old Uzumaki Naruto ever knew. Naruto would spend his days taking words to heart. He would watch his parents grab their children away from him like he was some sort of disease. But, instead of feeling sad, these things were a drive to make him stronger. Because, he had a dream. To become Hokage. Then everyone would learn to respect him for all he had done for them. And, if that didn't work. Fear. They would fear him. Who are you? Your worst nightmare? Didn't realize my worst nightmare would be a giant stinky fox. Kyuubi and Naruto ran side by side, following the other champions underwater. Kyuubi could see the tense muscles in Naruto's shoulders. He sighed inwardly. His kid just didn't understand. He was only trying to help him, but Naruto thought he was going to leave him. Just like everyone else. First Sasuke left him, then Gaara died and his blonde was so close to breaking. It hurt Kyuubi's heart. Well, what was left of it? Splash. Covered in water and dripping, Kurama snapped out of his thoughts. He looked down into the murky waters of the lake and watched as a glowing blue Naruto disappeared. Kyuubi channeled his chakra until it covered his body. He felt his fangs sharpening as his body glowed a blood red. Thoughts invaded his mind, bloodthirsty thoughts. Watching as Tsunade bled out in front of him. Sasuke strung up, his spine wrapped around his neck. Destroying the village that brought his kid pain. The fox shook his head. Bad thoughts. He dived, arms stretched out in front of him. His nose clogged up, but his chakra cleared it for him. He was channeling air through a stream of chakra. He knew Naruto was doing the same thing. Hopefully. He swam past the only female competitor, he forgets her name. He didn't stop to help, but could tell by her screams that the creatures were enjoying themselves immensely. He swam further through the plants, the wet leaves getting caught on his arms. He hated his human form, it took him over 10 times to stand up on the measly human sticks. But it was all worth it. He arrived in an underwater clearing, but before he could survey his surroundings he felt a disturbance in the water. He dove out the way and watched as a shark flashed past him, swimming past Harry and grabbing the Granger girl. Ah. He felt another presence, but didn't move. I'm glad you made it. Kit. Hey Kyubs. I thought you would have arrived before me. Aha, I got lost. By the way, the Potter kid is trying to save our people. Shit. They swam over, barreling past Harry, before sawing through the rope binding the two shinobi to the ark. They grabbed them, hoisted them on their backs and started to swim to the surface. They glanced down and watched amused as Harry struggled with two students. He should have just left that young girl. Naruto commented. If he did, we wouldn't get free entertainment. Kyuubi replied, smirking slightly. They moved out the way as Harry threw up the two kids. But before they reached the surface, Naruto and Kyuubi simultaneously grabbed an arm. They watched amused as Harry battled the little gremlins. I feel bad, let's at least leave one for him, Kurama muttered. Let's leave him Ginger. Ginger? Yeah, ginger-haired kid. Naruto replied. Okay. They released Hermione and he sank down towards a bleeding Harry. He glared at them and they grinned back. Good luck. Naruto called as he and Kurama swam away. They broke the surface and their chakra dissipated. There was a deep sigh. The three others had woken up, water streaming from their hair. HN. Dope. Team. Naruto screeched back. They stood up on the water, Sasuke carrying Gabriella across the lake. Naruto grinned at the three shinobi surrounding him. Have I told you guys how much I kinda maybe sorta love you? They chuckled as they walked across the water. In the background a boy with a lightning scar and his ginger-haired friend glared after them. Harry glared sullenly out of the window. He had finally accepted that Naruto was A, going to be stronger than him, B, was going to be weird, C, hiding something, and D, he hated the blonde with every fiber of his soul. Even more than he hated Draco Malfoy. He sighed, wrenching himself away from the window. He had some homework to do. He walked slowly down the corridor towards the library. Ron and Hermione were still recovering from the lake, and by recovering he meant Ron had eaten some of Fred and George's sweets, and Hermione had a fever. Ma Caillou-chan. Harry froze. Caillou-chan. What? I'm hungry. Oh, my actual god, I swear to heaven, hell and all things holy, if you ever bug me like that again, I will kill you. Well, someone's on his man period. Harry decided that homework wasn't important, but listening to two demonic twins. That was extremely important. He pressed his ear against the door, listening closely. So, how are you finding the tournament? Naruto questioned. It's boring, he finally answered. I know, right? Yes, the who's there? Harry lurched away from the door, but before he could run, the door swung open. Hey. Naruto grinned. Well, cough, I'll just be going, Harry whispered, backing away. The twins glanced at each other. Naruto shrugged and Kyuubi rolled his eyes. They smirked at Harry and poofed away. Harry stood there dumbfounded, that was not the way he had expected that conversation to go. He thought they were going to kill him. He shook his head, clearing any fear he felt from his mind and pushing the twin smirks into the shadows of his thoughts. He decided he should go and do some homework now. He stomped past a window overlooking the cottage pitch, stopped and retraced his steps. He stared out the window in shock. The whole stretch of land before him was covered in miles of hedgerows, bushes and undergrowth. A never-ending labyrinth of green. A realization hit him at full force. This was the third task. God damn it. I'm terrible at mazes. Hiba and Akamaru were training in the maze, using the passageways as a training exercise. The mission. Track Shikamaru without cheating. This meant following Akamaru's nose, but not running or jumping over dead ends. Of course, his friends were also hidden throughout the maze, preparing to jump out at them at any point in time. Of course, Kyuubi also wanted to play. And everyone knows that playing with Kyuubi is like an actual life or death battle to any mildly normal shinobi. Akamaru started to growl, who is it? Akamaru gave him a look that read, I'm a dog, I can't actually talk, asshole. Hiba looked back sheepishly, sorry. Akamaru rolled his eyes. Because, yes, Akamaru can roll his eyes. Suddenly, the giant dog leapt at Kiba and dragged him backwards. Where the brown-haired male once stood, a giant fireball hit, leaving a giant crater in its wake. Ah. The chicken has arrived. A kunai was thrown. HN. Clank. And reflected. You know, Ichiha. Naruto was right, you really do have an extended vocabulary. Sasuke threw a shuriken extremely violently, with actual killing intent. Hiba had to put some effort into blocking it. Shut the hell up. You're worse than the dope. Hey look, Akamaru. Me and Duckbutt are having a conversation. I'm proud Ichiha, Naruto was right to have faith in your people's skills. Sasuke's punch came out of nowhere and Kiba went flying backwards into the hedge behind. Sasuke stared at the Kiba-shaped hole before stalking away, head held high in victory. Fucking hell Ichiha. Naruto and Kyuubi were in Dumbledore's office. Why? No reason. No reason at all. Well. Let me give you a brief run-through of what happened. Naruto and Kyuubi broke into the office by threatening the gargoyle, multiple times, I might add, he was a tricky fella. Then, Naruto decided to go stroke the fiery bird that bit him, multiple times. Then it cried all over him. Who knew birds could cry? Of course, Naruto laughed hysterically, tripping over a loose book or something like that and falling backwards into a weird basin thingy. He disappeared. Kyuubi, being the worried big twin brother he was, did the only logical thing. He dove in after the blonde. Harry was sitting in the middle of a courtroom, Dumbledore smiling that slightly infuriating smile next to him. Barty Crouch Jr, I always loved the way they said his name, it makes me laugh, was being dragged to the front. Harry leaned forward to hear what they were saying, but was then distracted by the blonde and red mess that landed almost on top of his nose. Kyuubs. Where the fuck are we? Mr. Uzumaki, you are in my memories. Dumbledore answered, masking his annoyance. He was already regretting bringing them here. Oh. Well, old man, your memories are boring. Well, I think they're rather interesting. Harry said, dutifully. But you're friends with that bushy girl, so of course you'll find this interesting. Harry pulled his lips back into a snarl. Leave my friends out of this. He hissed angrily. Okay. Keep your socks on. Naruto flapped his hand, sort of like he was dismissing Harry. Dumbledore watched with growing concern, inviting them was a bad idea. And he didn't have many of those, did he? Kyuubi was watching what was happening in the memory, it kept on replaying. He narrowed his eyes as they dragged the adolescents to the front. The way his tongue flicked, it looked familiar, but he couldn't quite place it. The look on the boy's father's face was quite amusing, and Kyuubi had bite the inside of his cheek to keep from snorting. If the wizards had just looked at the evidence, they probably wouldn't have needed the death something or another to tell them. Man, wizards are stupid. Which made Kyuubi even more excited about the maze. He, Naruto and the others already knew the maze inside and out. He knew it might count as cheating, but they called it physical studying. I mean, it wasn't like they weren't going to put things in the maze. If it was just a maze, it would be over in about half an hour. Well, we best be getting back to the present. Dumbledore said, standing up. He had been growing tired of Naruto and Harry's arguing. Okay, old man. Naruto said cheerfully. Dumbledore huffed. He could now see why Tsunade was drunk or was drinking, that boy was a handful. I'm Skippy. The grand finale of the tournament had arrived. The bubbling excitement that had been residing in Naruto's stomach felt like it would explode into a million pieces if any more was added. He bounced on his heels as he pulled his orange uniform over his head. He smirked when he remembered that Kurama had to wear purple. The look of pure horror on the fox demon's face was enough to make him crack up. Now he stood at an entrance to the maze, excitement racing through his bones. Tsunade gripped his shoulder tight, and if it had been anyone else, they would have flinched. Sasuke and Sakura stood a little bit behind, interest and slight jealousy on their faces. Oh. I wish I was doing it. Sakura whined. Sasuke nodded in agreement, Sakura was glad that he agreed with her. Naruto waved wildly when he saw Kyuubi, almost punching his Hokage in the face. Naruto. Tsunade hollered, punching him hard in the head. Neither Naruto's head nor the new dent in the ground appreciated that. Sorry. He offered weakly in return. Suddenly the arena went quiet as the headmaster stepped out of the tent. Behind him came Harry Potter and Cedric Diggory, both wearing their house colors. Naruto snorted when he realized that the reason Kyuubi wasn't allowed to wear red was because of Potter's house colors. Looking at the said demon's face made Naruto realize that Kurama probably realized the exact same thing. It was amazing Potter wasn't a pile of ash on the ground with the glare Kyuubi was giving him. The headmaster started droning on explaining what was happening, but Naruto, being Naruto, had a silent conversation with Kyuubi. Remember the plan? Naruto rolled his eyes. Obviously. Good. Wow. Even with your eyes you're an emotionless bastard. I'm gaining some understanding. I can tell. Shut up. Now let the third and final task begin. The maze was dark and the long twisting passageways weren't like they were before. Naruto had heard and sensed the telltale signs of magical creatures and was trying to avoid them the best he could. The rustle brought him to a halt and he slowly made his way to the end of the passage. Peering cautiously around the corner, the blonde-haired shinobi came face to face with Kurama. Kit. Oh, thank God. I was worried it was going to be that kid who made me wear purple. The fox demon exclaimed, looking mournfully down at his uniform. Naruto grinned, you're never gonna forgive him, are you? Not in a million years. You'll still be alive by then, won't you? Kurama frowned, I don't understand. When you die, I die. That's what the seal says. Naruto continued to grin, I'll just release the seal, just before I die. Ayubi's frown weakened slightly, but he didn't say anything. They turned another corner, both of their senses screaming out. Focusing their senses, Naruto and Kurama felt an unfamiliar chakra coming towards them. One of the reasons they had been avoiding the creatures and other players was because of the chakra they possessed but never hid. However, this chakra was more demonic. And Naruto knew a lot about that chakra, he was even better than Sakura, which was a first when it came to academic things. The two brothers frowned at each other before taking a cautious step forward. Suddenly there was a rustling behind them. Before they could even react, the walls of the maze had closed in on them, trapping them against each other. Well, Naruto drawled, this is comfortable. Shut up. Barry wasn't lost. No. Definitely not. He was just admiring the scenery, the very dark scenery. A twig cracked, and Harry jumped. Not even stopping to look behind him, Harry sprinted down the passageway. Nope. Nope. Noppity nope. Fuck this. Fuck that. I'm outta here. He then tripped. The hedges suddenly wrapped their branches around him and proceeded to drag him underneath them. Ah. Watch out, kid. Harry blearily looked around and saw a blonde head next to his as Naruto pulled him from the bush. He tensed up, waiting for the blonde to release him. When he finally did, Harry sprung back, glaring at them. Wow. Not even a thank you. No wonder everyone loves you so much. I don't need your help. Harry hissed at them, standing up shakily. Fine then, Naruto huffed, crossing his arms, next time you are about to be murdered by an evil plant or a psychotic man, I promise I'll just watch instead of helping. Like Kyuubi did. Ain't that right, Kyubs? The redhead glared at Harry, you made me wear purple. Harry blinked. Then blinked again. You're mad because you're wearing purple. Kyuubi stiffened, well I wouldn't have to wear purple if someone hadn't taken the blood red. Harry looked down, seeing that he was the one wearing the blood red outfit and looked up again. You fucking bastard. Kyuubi sniffed disdainfully, red suits me. He turned around, grabbing a sheepish Naruto by his collar and dragged him down the passageway. Bye Potter. Naruto cooed, waving cheerfully. Harry sighed, better find that trophy before them. Hey, look Kyubs. A shimmer of blue light came from that direction. Naruto exclaimed cheerfully, pointing in a direction. Kurama growled. Oh my god. I don't give a shit. Let's follow it anyway, Naruto said. Kurama sighed and trudged in the direction that the blonde idiot was pointing. As they walked slowly to the cup, a yellow and red blur came barreling from the other direction, running full sprint towards the cup. Stop them. Naruto yelled, sprinting down the passageway, Kyuubi trailing unwillingly behind him. The cup started to glow just as Naruto grabbed onto it and without even thinking, Kurama latched onto his brother as well. Naruto felt another sharp pull in his stomach, kind of like the one he felt when the can transported him from Konoha to London. Wait. But before he could fully comprehend what was happening, he felt the port key or whatever leave his hands. Naruto saw the ground speeding towards him and managed to land on his feet. He looked next to him to find that Kyuubi had done the same. We need to hide, he said quietly, and survey the area for any threats. Naruto nodded his head in agreement, his hands forming specific signs. Then they were gone. Harry hit the ground with a thump, his back aching. He sat up and rubbed his back, already feeling the telltale signs of a bruise forming. There was a crunch of footsteps next to him. Harry? Are you alright? He heard Cedric question through the haziness that had settled over his mind. He stumbled to his feet, wiping the dirt off his glasses. Yeah, I guess. Harry? Harry, I think we're in a graveyard. Cedric exclaimed behind him. Turning around, Harry saw the Hufflepuff running his fingers over a gravestone. The statue looked familiar, and the names. Oh god, the names. Thomas Riddle. Mary Riddle. Tom Riddle SNR. He'd been here before. Shit, Cedric, we've got to go. What? Why? But, before Harry could explain, a shadow moved near the entrance to the chapel. Turning towards it, Harry saw the person step into the dim moonlight. It was Peter fucking Pettigrew. Before he could react, a cold chilling voice filled the air, kill the spare. Avada Kedavra. Then Cedric was dead. Harry couldn't feel anything, couldn't see anything but Cedric, dead on the ground. He felt tears well up, see Cedric, he managed to choke out. Out of the corner of his eye, Harry saw a flash of orange and purple, but his mind was too hazy to comprehend. Suddenly, he was flung head first into reality as the scythe of the statue on the Riddle grave closed around him. His attention suddenly on Pettigrew, Harry watched in mute horror as the rat seemingly dumped a baby-like creature into a cauldron of boiling water and then proceeded to cut his hand off. The bastard then shuffled over to Harry, pulling out a knife. Harry heard him mumble, the blood of an enemy, unwillingly given, before he grabbed his arm. He pulled his arm out, with the forearm facing up and pressed the knife down. Without any remorse, he dragged the knife strongly down the arm, drawing a deep well of blood. He then walked away, leaving a crying Harry behind and dripped the droplets of blood into the cauldron. The cauldron started to froth and bubble, and whilst a delirious Harry didn't understand what was happening, a demon hidden in the trees understood well what was going on. He glanced over at the blonde and watched as Naruto's eyes widened with realization before he smirked. Kurama flashed the container a grin before turning back to the scene before him. Harry suddenly was hit with a realization of what was happening, and the pain was gone. He could see clearly, breathe clearly. He was still trapped. The cauldron started to melt and ghost-like figure appeared from the liquid running off. Harry bit the inside of his cheek to stop himself from screaming when Voldemort rose up from within the cauldron. Harry watched, painfully aware of the banging pain in his forehead as Peter passed Voldemort his wand. The pale man looked down at his wand maliciously before his head snapped up again. The newly resurrected Dark Lord's eyes landed on Wormtail, where he then smirked maliciously. "Hello, Peter." Pettigrew whimpered and bowed his head. "Hold out your arm, Wormtail." Voldemort barked. Thank you, my lord," Wormtail stuttered, holding out his handless arm. "Not that one, you imbecile, your other arm," he spat. The trembling man held out his other arm, revealing the dark mark. Voldemort grinned and pushed his wand hard against the tattoo. The tattoo protruded and writhed, before also appearing in the sky. The skull opened its mouth and from within, blasts of black smoke flew out and landed next to the maniac. Voldemort greeted the Death Eaters with vigor, before repeatedly ripping of their masks. Harry watched as he revealed Lucius Malfoy, Crabbe Sr., Goyle Sr. and countless other familiar names. Quickly surveying the scene, Voldemort's eyes skipped over everything, including Harry, before resting on the dead body of Cedric Diggory. The man sauntered over, staring down with what anyone else would see as sympathy, but Harry saw as mockery. "Such a pretty boy," the Dark Lord said. All the Death Eaters roared with laughter. "Get off him." Harry shrieked, "Don't touch him." That was when Voldemort seeming noticed him. "Ah. Harry. I didn't see you there." The man smirked and sauntered up to him. Harry tried to cower away, but Voldemort continued forward, his eyes lighting up in excitement. "But guess what? I can touch you now." All Harry felt was a cold finger on his forehead before he was consumed with immense pain. The horrible men continued to laugh. "No one can help you now, Potter." Did someone say help? Both Harry, Voldemort and all the Death Eaters looked up in shock. There standing on top of the gravestone were the twins, Naruto and Kyuubi. "Well." Harry looked at them in hope. But it faded when Naruto smirked at him. "We also promised you that we would never help you again." "That was in the actual maze, you asshole." Harry yelled at him. He watched in mild disgust as Naruto pouted. "You might not understand it, Harry. But my Triwizard way tells me to always keep my promises. And since I promised to never help you after you yelled at me, I don't see why we should. So, me and Kyuubi will sit in this tree and watch this hilarious fight take place. Ciao." The twins disappeared in a flurry of smoke and leaves, leaving Harry and his enemy staring at the place they stood in stunned silence. "Well then," Voldemort said, turning to him, "shall we put on a show?" Harry dropped to the floor after he was released from the Reaper's hold. "Quick, pick up your wand. We'll have a wizard's duel. You do know how to duel, don't you, Harry?" Harry nodded shakily. "Well then, we bout to start then." Harry glared at him, unwilling to submit to the man in front of him. "I said bow." Harry felt his back bend and felt his head ache, hearing the drumming bow, 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 bow in his head, but unlike in Defense Against the Dark Arts, Harry couldn't resist. "Good." Harry felt him release his mind and fell over. He heard Naruto snicker. Harry felt a growl build up in his throat. He normally didn't mind if students at school didn't believe in him winning a tournament, but here he was facing off against Voldemort and Naruto didn't want to help. Yeah, that's okay, he might not want to die. But Naruto had no right to laugh at him. However, before Harry could react, a Crucio hit him and he screamed, falling to the ground. He watched as Voldemort raised his wand again and scrabbled away, lurching behind the gravestone for cover. "Don't run away from me, Harry Potter," Voldemort screeched. Harry tried to calm down his breathing, but before he could stand up and yell Expelliarmus, Wormtail's quivering voice halted both parties. My lord, those two boys, one's a demon." Harry's eyes widened, "Demon?" Naruto heard it. "Shit. Kyuubi, you hear that?" he muttered. Kurama growled next to him, "I knew we should have killed him." "Well, what do you want to do about it?" "We're leaving for our dimension in about a week, so I say we just leave it, but kill them if it causes us trouble." Naruto frowned at the demon next to him, "Not like you to back down from killing someone." Kurama smirked at him, "I just want to see Potter deal with him, we can kill them afterwards." Naruto thought for a moment. The man facing the boy beneath them didn't seem that strong, and Naruto could barely sense AB spiritual energy coming from him. Spending around half a year with wizards had actually taught Naruto something. Even though they didn't use the spiritual energy, each wizard had a small portion that is released when either their lives are in danger or they didn't have enough natural energy to cast spells. However, the man, was he actually a man? Before them seemed to be running on empty. Had he been in a situation where his life was almost destroyed, or had his soul been shattered so often that the spiritual energy had disappeared? Moving on to the boy. He had too much. It seemed that sometime in his life, some spiritual energy, either from a parent or a friend, had left their body and attached themselves to him. Also, a tiny portion of the energy seemed extremely dark, a lot darker than a teenage boy's energy was supposed to be. It was like demon dark. Naruto had only seen that kind of energy in Kurama. That wasn't a good thing. But then there was another energy, something pure and white, surrounding the original energy, protecting it from the darkness. Naruto had a feeling he was supposed to know what the energy was, but it reminded him of a warm summer's day, swimming and eating, but also of a winter's night spent by the fire. But familiar and powerful. Now that he thought about it, each wizard and witch had a white glow around their energy, but Harry's was more vibrant and pure. Using the distraction Wormtail had caused, Harry crawled toward Cedric, but before he could reach the fallen boy, another Crucio hit him from behind. But he continued to move forward until his nose brushed against Cedric's arm. His body had lost its warmth, and Harry couldn't handle that cold eyes staring at nothing. With a shaking hand, he reached out and closed his eyes. He gripped his wand and pointed it at the cup. Accio. The cup flew into his hand, and just as he disappeared, Harry heard Voldemort scream, and something warm clamped onto both of his shoulders. The journey was a blur, and a sharp tug in his navel. Later Harry landed on Cedric in front of a stand of cheering peers. But everything came flooding back, and the tears that Harry was holding suddenly couldn't stop. He felt an arm wrap around him, but he could only see Cedric and his failure of avenging him. Harry was forcefully ripped from Cedric's body and was carried by Mad Eye Moody towards the teacher's office. The raven-haired teen felt himself thrown into a chair and wiped his tears and glasses. Looking up, he saw Moody staring at him with an oddly caring face. "Are you okay, Potter?" "Why yeah," Harry choked out. Moody nodded, reaching out a hand to comfort him. But, before any comforting took, the door burst open and Moody was on the floor. "Don't you fucking touch, you fucking death-eating scumbag." Shadows flitted across the lake. The setting sun casting a fading glow across the landscape. As night began to fall, the air grew colder, the leaves shivering in the wind. The leaves that fell softly from the trees landed on the water, disturbing the calm element. A reflection appeared in the water, the long shadow stretching ominously across the water. Darkness covering everything. There were no clouds in the sky, yet it started to rain. Small and slow, hitting the water faintly with a plop. But then again, it wasn't rain. It was tears. The reflection was crying silently, letting the night cover them. They had been sitting at the edge of the lake since the sun had risen, not moving. Naruto hit the ground, rolling over to lessen the impact on his ribs. He heard 3 more thuds as the 3 others landed as well. 2 groans, well, a groan and a wheezing sound. Later, 2 of the 4 champions stood up, rubbing the bruising body parts of theirs. Naruto sighed. Sure, the injuries would heal quickly, but the pain was not appreciated. The growl next to him signified that the demon was feeling the same way. But that wasn't the worst or most hilarious part, in Naruto's opinion. The fact that the chosen one and the savior of the wizarding world was still crying over the death of someone he barely knew. That was hilarious. Naruto was often asked if he ever felt any remorse in what he did. The answer was always no. Why should he feel remorse if the villagers that he had to live with all through his child didn't have to? He glanced over as the thud of the fake. Evil. He didn't actually know, he just knew he was lying about something. Professor Moody stomped over. Naruto's eyebrows furrowed as the defense against the dark arts teacher, instead of comforting the boy, dragged him off instead. Sure, Naruto had only been here for little under a year, but comforting someone didn't involve dragging them off by their underarm. If you were removing a hysterical person from the premises, the shoulder was a good place to guide them. But Naruto hadn't learned everything about wizards, so maybe they had weird techniques. However, the way Shikamaru kept glancing in the direction of the 2 wizards and then looking back at him had him questioning that. He nudged Kyuubi with his foot and then did a weird head movement, trying to signal to him. Naruto. Just speak in Japanese. Fine. Kurama. We need to check on the scar face. Ugh. Why? Because, it's a cordial thing to do. Kyuubi snorted, nice. Ugh, fine. It's my excuse to punch that fucker. But excuse? No. Innovative idea. Yes. What does innovative mean? Good. Harry just couldn't think straight. Through the blur of his tears, Harry could see 2 figures, one standing tall, directly in front of the door. The other slouched just behind. Troublesome. Different voice. That wasn't Kyuubi. But Naruto was at the front. The pain in his arm stopped him from thinking straight. There was a loud crash and Moody was down on the floor, scrabbling for a bottle, Naruto's friend watching bored from the corner. The said blonde was actually sitting on the deranged professor's back. Giggling. Then the clank of the bottle that the professor was trying to pick up brought Harry's attention back to the Death Eater. The boy with pineapple hair had picked up the only full glass and now Moody was screaming. Screaming and shifting. The bubbling skin started to change. Moody grew thinner, the jacket starting to slip off his shoulder. His hair grew shorter and darker, now shifting to accommodate the new, sharp cheekbones. The fake eye popped out and rolled on the floor, whirling away under the sofa. A cracking sound filled the room as the wooden leg fell off. There was a small shriek as Naruto fell off the whimpering man in fits of laughter, stopping suddenly and staring blankly at the door. He glanced over at his friend, who eyed him with disdain. But before either of them could move, the door to the office slammed open and Kyuubi stalked in, followed by Professor Dumbledore and Snape. "Oh God, Naruto. What have I told you about sitting on the victims?" Kyuubi snapped at his brother. Naruto grinned back and smirked, "Fuck you. Seriously, stop laughing at him." "You're annoying," Naruto snapped back. Dumbledore had hoisted the Death Eater up and tied him onto the chair. Naruto stopped laughing and the 2 teachers and 3 exchange students surrounded him. Snape pulled out a potion and Naruto stamped on the foot, the mouth opened and the professor poured it down his throat. "Who are you?" Dumbledore snarled. The man frothed and choked, heavily swallowing before replying, "Be Barty Crouch Jr. Dumbledore didn't look impressed. "Why are you here?" he asked calmly. "Hot-tea the dark," Barty spluttered and smirked, "Low Lord W will return." Dumbledore slapped him, "He's already back." Barty Crouch Jr. then laughed manically. Just sat on his chair and laughed, not even stopping when Dumbledore pointed a wand at his throat. He was only silenced when a knife was flung at his head, impaling the wall behind him. Everyone turned to look at Naruto, who shrugged sheepishly, "He was pissing me off." Kyuubi snorted before dragging his brother out of the room. The other student, dressed like a pineapple, trailed slowly behind them, glancing behind him in a bored fashion. After the 3 were gone, the professors huddled together whispering to each other. Harry sank to the floor, all the energy drained out of him. He sucked in long breaths of air, trying to slow his heartbeat down. Harry put his head in between his knees, willing the tightening in his stomach to go away. Glancing up through the fabric, Harry watched as the Death Eater was tied to the chair and Snape left the room to alert the Aurors. His vision blurred again as he remembered what happened. He saw Cedric's cold body and lifeless eyes staring up at him. Harry felt the tears drip down his face and a soft whimper escaped him. Before he could react, he felt soft hands touch his head. His chest. His knees. He felt someone rub soothingly on his hands. He glanced up to find Hermione and Ron sitting on either side of him, comforting him. He tried to smile, but from the looks on their faces, it most likely came out as a grimace. "It's okay to cry, Harry," Hermione whispered softly to him, continuously rubbing his hand. "Yeah, mate. We won't judge," Ron tried to console, his hand still resting on Harry's head. Harry broke down, his body racked with sobs and with his friends by his side. Naruto and Kurama sat by the lake, watching as the shadows stretched with the falling sun. A rustling behind them, an unconcealed chakra alerted them to the presence of Sasuke and Sakura. Naruto turned his head to the side in greeting as the 2 other shinobi sat down. A few meters away, Shikamaru was lying under a tree, sleeping. His teammates, Ino and Choji sat by his side, playing a quiet game of cards. Both Kiba and Akamaru were also asleep, Kiba curled up next to the warmth of Akamaru's chest. Hinata sat silently beside him, reading a book, whilst Shino was nowhere to be found. The Sand siblings had disappeared a while back, Gaara wanting to return home, news had reached them that a threat had been issued to the Sand village. Gaara had been requested to return. The eldest shinobi, Niji, Lee and Tenten were guarding the castle. They were keeping a lookout for any other Death Eaters that had broken in. "When are we leaving?" Naruto asked as his 2 other teammates settled down. Sasuke scoffed and rolled his eyes before lying down and gazing at the clouds. "That one looks like you," the black-haired shinobi said, pointing at a cloud. Kurama glanced up at the sky as well before snorting. "What?" Naruto asked, glancing up as well. He then scowled slightly and punched Sasuke's arm. The cloud the bastard had been looking at was shaped into a butt shape. But before he could react again, Sakura had both him and Sasuke in a hard grip. "Anyway," she growled, "we are leaving tomorrow." Naruto nodded shakily, wrenching himself from Sakura's strong grip. Sighing, the girl scrubbed her face and massaged her knuckles, glancing worriedly at Naruto. The sun started to set and the shinobi all rose, walking wearily back to the castle. Naruto and Kurama had discussed what was going to happen to the fox and after a couple of minutes of arguing, they had come to an agreement. Kurama would remain in his physical form when they arrived back in Konoha. He would lay down his life for the village. He didn't mind though, he had always wanted to try Ichiraku's. Hey, Kiba suddenly said, you think Potter is okay? Yeah. Probably. Naruto, what did you do? Naruto just laughed. Sakura was walking down the street the day before her 7th birthday when she first met Naruto. The blonde boy had been shoved out of the shop she was about to enter. Instead of ignoring the younger boy like everyone else, Sakura stood in front of the shopkeeper. What do you think you are doing? She hissed at him. The shopkeeper looked at her disdainfully before replying, the little brat was stealing from me. No, I wasn't. The blonde boy yelled. Before she could stop him, the man held the child by the throat. Yes. You were. I was going to pee, he choked out. Sakura leant over and picked up a pipe, bringing it up and around, slamming it into the back of the man's knees. He yelped, dropping the boy and crumpled to the floor. Sakura turned to the scruffy boy and smiled brightly. He gave her a soft smile, the name Naruto. Sakura couldn't help but notice that he spoke weirdly, missing out letters and punctuation. But she didn't point it out and instead replied with, my name is Sakura. Kiba had been walking some of the family dogs when first bumped into Naruto. In fact, it was more like tripped over him. Because, since Kiba was basically blind, he tripped over a strange body and hit his forehead on the ground. Hey! He yelled at the unconscious body. But the body made no reply. Kiba crept forward and crouched next to the body. He noticed that a few tufts of blonde hair sticking out from underneath the cloak. 7-year-old Kiba was an idiot. He knew he shouldn't touch things that didn't belong to him. But this thing wasn't a thing, they were a person. That made it alright to touch them. So, Kiba touched them. The bundle let out a yelp and sat bolt upright. Kiba was surprised to find that the bundle was a small boy. He was short. Shorter than Kiba, with spiky blonde hair and blue eyes. There were also whisker markings on his cheeks. Kiba frowned. The boy was scruffy, small and skinny, and when Kiba went to pick him up, he was also extremely light. Kiba started walking back to his house, the boy tucked safely in his arms. He heard a slight whimper and looked down. The boy was staring at him with a slight pout. I can walk, he snapped. Kiba snorted, sure. What's your name by the way? What's yours? Kiba. Naruto. Kiba smiled down at him. The younger boy frowned, where are we going? My house. Kiba cheerfully said. Naruto leapt up and tore his way out of Kiba's arms. He ran down the street and disappeared around the corner. Kiba was left standing alone. At night, as his family settled down to eat, Kiba asked and learned things about Uzumaki Naruto. Hogwarts was in mourning. The shinobi stood in the back, not quite understanding the whole situation. Was everyone friends with him? Sakura whispered. I wasn't. Kiba muttered back. Maybe they mourn differently to us. Hinata mumbled, glancing worriedly at the front. They watched as the headmaster stood up and cleared his throat. Naruto frowned, was he actually that close to the kid? Is he allowed to do that? The rest of the shinobi shrugged and fell silent, listening to Albus Dumbledore's speech. Harry sighed as he stood in his dormitory. This year had been a weird year. School was ending in a week, the exams and tournament were over, yet Hermione was still in the library researching something important. The boy who lived hadn't seen Naruto or the Konoha students since the speech Dumbledore gave. No one knew where they were, yet Dumbledore was convinced that they were still in the castle. Somewhere. The Beauxbatons and Durmstrang students had left the day after the speech, saying solemn goodbyes to the mourning students. Cedric's funeral was taking place on the first week back into the summer holidays. Harry, Hermione and the Weasleys had been invited. Harry wasn't sure he could go though, due to the fact that the Dursleys hadn't got over the Weasleys yet. There was a loud bang, and Harry was jerked out of his thoughts, jumping up from his bed with his wand pointed at the door. Ron sat up abruptly from where he had been dozing and scrambled around for his wand as well. Hermione Granger barreled into the room, face flushed with delight and a large book clutched tightly to her chest. Remember that pop quiz we got in Defense Against the Dark Arts? She whispered excitedly. Ron frowned, we got loads, which one are you talking about? Hermione rolled her eyes, the first one, obviously. Right. Obviously, Harry mumbled, looking over at Ron, who looked just as confused as Harry felt, what was it about again? Demons? Hermione squeaked, sitting cross-legged on Ron's bed and placing the book in front of her. The two boys leaned over as she rapidly flicked through the pages. The page she landed on was titled Kyuubi no Kitsune. In the center of the page was a large picture of a nine-tailed fox, its tails lashing out over trees and fire raging at its feet. Hermione's finger was jabbing excitedly at a passage that read. The Kyuubi no Kitsune was last seen in the Elemental Nations, a place considered to be from another parallel universe. Demons from the nations are bigger than the ones found on Earth and usually cause a lot more catastrophic destruction. The Kyuubi is considered to be the most powerful of Bijuu demons due to the number of tails. Each demon's power comes from its tails, the weakest having one. Shukaku Biju are usually sealed inside a Jinchuriki, or a host vessel. The last known Kyuubi Jinchuriki was one Kashina Uzumaki, originally from Konoha, or the Fire Nation. "Don't you see," Hermione whispered, grinning, "Naruto isn't Kyuubi's brother, he's the host. I bet you he who must not be named knows that as well." "How?" "Barty Crouch Jr, obviously. He was a spy." Harry nodded in understanding. "Is there anything about the demons affecting someone's mental stability?" Ron and Hermione both looked at him confused before Hermione started flicking through the pages again. She stopped at another page. Demon chakra, or energy, is the darkest form of chakra. If not controlled by the vessel, the demon can latch onto the host's mind or take over the body. Going through their life with these experiences in large quantities can affect the overall mental health of a Jinchuriki. These can result in them going rogue and losing certain emotions, including empathy and love. Most Jinchuriki are raised as weapons for their village and can hold some control over their demon, if desired. The three of them looked at each other and winced. The first time Shikamaru met Naruto, he had been sleeping in the forest. The young Nara had been cloud-gazing and the sun had put him to sleep. Like most pickup lines, Naruto had fallen for Shikamaru. Well, more like tripped over him. Because he was Naruto. "Oh my gosh. I'm so sorry about that." The little voice woke Shikamaru up. He opened his groggy eyes and came face to face with two bright gems. He blinked the sleep out of them and sat up in the realization that they were, in fact, not gems. Their foreheads collided with a hefty thump. Shikamaru crawled backwards, clutching his face and blinking back tears. Once the tears had vanished, he turned around. Sitting a few meters away from him was a small blond boy with bright blue eyes and cat whiskers. Shikamaru couldn't help but sigh slightly. What was up with Konoha and their strange fashion senses? The boy was wearing orange. Orange? How was he still alive? He crawled cautiously over towards the boy, whose hands were clasped over the growing bump on his head. "Hey. Are you alright?" Shikamaru cautiously reached out towards him. The boy looked up at him before shining brightly. "It's a white. I forgive you. My name is Nodo," the boy said cheerfully. Shikamaru watched as Naruto pressed the bruise before wincing. "Troublesome," he grumbled before grabbing the boy's hand and dragging him towards his house. "My name is Shikamaru. Where are we going?" "To heal your bruise." "No thwunks." "What troublesome," Shikamaru muttered as the blond boy ran away. The golden trio ran down the corridors, looking through every passageway and even the red fox portrait. But the shinobi were nowhere in sight. In a last-ditch attempt to find them, they shoved on the invisibility cloak and snuck out and into the forest. As they ventured further into the forest with no sign of the Konoha students, the trio began to lose hope. The trees were growing thicker and the forest darker with every step they took. "Come on, Hermione," Ron grumbled angrily, "we've been walking for hours." "We have not," she snapped back. "Ow. You stood on my foot." "Sorry," Harry muttered. As they tripped and stumbled their way through another bush, they arrived in a small clearing. There, underneath the stars were the students. Wrapped up in blankets, they were curled up next to each other, whilst one lone figure sat a tree stump. Sneaking closer, it turned out it was Naruto, stroking Hanu. There was a slight shove and Hermione repped the cloak. Naruto inclined his head in greeting but didn't turn to look at them. Hanu barked something at him and Naruto nodded. The fox disappeared. "Hanu's gone to find Draco, and I believe you've come to find me." Naruto finally turned to face them. "We've come to acquire information about the relationship with your brother," Hermione exclaimed boldly. Naruto glanced towards a form sleeping next to him and then placed his hand on his stomach. "What about it?" "We know he's a demon." Naruto's hand jerked from his stomach and he stood up. "How?" he choked out. "Here," Hermione gave him the book and opened it on the page she bookmarked. Naruto sat down and read the page, frowning slightly. He then threw it at the said demon. Kyuubi sat up abruptly and threw the book back. "They found us out," Naruto said, nodding his head at the trio. "How?" "By reading," Hermione said stiffly. "Ah," Kyuubi made a noise of understanding. Naruto turned back to them and cocked his eyebrow. "Did you just come to ask that, or?" Hermione smiled. "We also want to know what you truly are." Naruto and Kyuubi glanced at each other. "What do you mean?" "We know you're not wizards." "No, we're not," Kyuubi replied. "We're shinobi," Naruto answered. "Shinobi," Ron tried to say. "No," Naruto snorted slightly, "Shinobi." Ron tried again until Naruto was satisfied. The trio settled down in the grass as Naruto and Kyuubi told them about ninjas and the Fire Nations and demons. They fell asleep in the grass, not noticing Naruto, Kyuubi and Sakura carrying them back to the dormitory. The next morning was the morning that the shinobi were leaving. Dumbledore had set up a Japanese-style breakfast in their honor and many people watched in horror as Naruto inhaled bowl after bowl of ramen. Many shinobi had to teach the students how to use chopsticks. Hermione and Harry already knew how, so they helped as well, snorting green ray up their noses when Ron's sushi fell in his ramen. But the feast was over too soon, and the shinobi stood at the entrance of the Great Hall, bags packed and laden with presents. Naruto hadn't wanted his share of the prize money, so he gave it to the Diggory parents so they could pay for the funeral. Hermione, blushing, shoved one last gift into Naruto's hand. He and Kyuubi looked at it and smiled when they noticed it was a book on wizard culture. The culture for a culture. Tsunade bowed to Dumbledore, flicked her wrist and commanded her students to bow for him. They did. After a few final waves the shinobi were surrounded by a faint glow. With a faint pop they vanished, leaving Hogwarts behind. "Albus," McGonagall said from next to him. "Yes, my dear Minerva. Never invite the here again." The reflection smiled and vanished. It had work to do. What if Naruto Triwizard Tournament in Harry Potter end here, and thanks for watching my video till the end.